Hey, so this is going to be a video on how to prog T. So I've recently cleared this fight as a Dragoon, and would like to provide input on how you can prog this fight extremely quickly. So our progression took 46 hours in total over a course of 5 weeks. I think it could have been a lot faster than that, to be honest, like probably like under 40, but we're kind of like tilted near the end, but you know, it is what it is. So, I don't know, I think super fast prog for a fight that's already been solved at this time should be, I don't know, somewhere between 35 to 50 hours. Or 35 to like 45, probably be about right. But yeah, if people know how to study the fight properly and put in the hours and not have a lot of like downtime in between raid nights, it will be okay. This video will probably just be here to provide insight on how fast prog can be done for this fight. Obviously, I have to reiterate that this is for a fight that has already been solved. So I'll go through each phase and major mechanic one by one and talk about all the strategy that we did and how we started it beforehand and how we troubleshooted it as we got to the mechanic. I also provide my personal way of how I got mechanics down consistently, in which I think for every big mechanic I got it down by like the first, second, or most third time I saw it, but that's obviously with research and everything beforehand, it's not blind. There's also like obviously a million videos on T out there, but they're usually just like guides or mechanic discussions, which I guess this is sort of like a mechanic discussion, but it's not really a guide. But what I want to offer is that this can be like a deep dive into fast prog and getting the strategies and those guides down consistent as quickly as possible. So this won't be like a strategy guide, but more of a discussion about prog and the fight in general. Though there are parts that could be similar to a strategy guide and can be taken that way, but it won't be for the entire fight, just individual segments that should be focused on. I think one of the core ideas that I will say though is to like reduce unnecessary lines of thought when progressing quickly. If your group's goal is to learn quickly, and you're also putting in the effort to do so, you kind of have to trust the others to do the same, because unless your brain is like actually huge, then you won't really have much time to like look at what others are doing, because by the time you got down what you've done, everybody else would have done so already, and you're already at the next part of the fight. So I think when progression is that quick, just focus on what you have to do and what you need to look out for, and by that time you're really just, the idea is just reducing the lines of thought and making things more efficient, which in turn makes mechanics much easier to execute consistently. So I guess we should talk about like gear before we start. Let's just quickly just go to the balance Discord and just get like a best in slot for this fight. Doesn't really matter. Just like the relic weapons are pretty big. I think they give somewhere between like 200 to 300 extra substats over the 475 raid weapon with melds. I think for Dragoon, I think it was like 260 something, I don't remember. But I think even if you don't have it, I think it's still fine to start prog and get it quickly by yourself outside of raid time. But I think it's like you can easily clear without it, because obviously relics are a new addition. This is just mainly because, like, you know, like the start of the fight, right? It's really only like the vitality you want, and that mainly just comes from like dungeon gear. It certainly does help prog because there is a bit of healing to do, and it's good to have a little extra to help out. I guess this isn't like early into the fight, right? It's quite late, but I remember in Perfect Alex, I survived on 70 HP, like literally 70 HP on Super Jump in Fake Calibration Beta during prog, and it allowed us to see and rage. I think this is just because of the extra gear from the best in slot, where I had a few 475 left side pieces from the dungeon, and that boosted my vitality. Now obviously you get like best in slot, but as most groups would probably expect you to do that before they start. But in the off chance that they're like okay with it, you can just get gear pieces on the side. You mainly just want like the vitality from the 75 first and foremost, and then the melds you get from the correct item level gear, and then the relic weapon for extra substats. I think that's basically like the order of priority, because DPS checks on this fight don't really exist, so it's perfectly okay to trundle on with a set that gives you like highest DPS potential. Like, our group literally had to hold like DPS for phase 2 and phase 3 because we killed it too fast and needed to wait for people to get resources back. Like, imagine doing that in Ultimate, right? But it's just what we had to do. If you're lacking some pieces of gear or something, I think just focus on correct skill or spell speed. Like, just meld it in or use like suboptimal pieces to add or remove speed if you need it, like for the start of prog. Because I think it's much more important to start learning how your GCD speed lines up with the fight, rather than get the best in slot later and have to relearn a little. This is obviously just from like a DPS player's perspective. I guess for healers, get like a shit ton of piety when while keeping the GCD speed that you want, and slowly like take it out as you are like approaching the clear. But yeah, like TLDR is basically just get best in slot, but it's okay if you don't have everything right off the bat, and just get it as soon as possible. I don't know, I guess we can talk about like party composition. The tank composition, as long as you're just running like 2 different tanks, it's really just like, it just is what it is. There's a spreadsheet online that you can find that has like tank mitigations that's already mapped out for every single different like tank combination in the game. So, and for like mapped out for all 4 phases. So like literally you can just pick any 2 tanks and just build like the spreadsheet around it, because it's like one's already been made and you can just like move things around if it's like if it's better for certain different like spots or whatever. But yeah, tanks, that doesn't really matter. Healers, I think healers are like, again, any combination is fine. I don't think it really matters, because like as long as you're not running like 2 white mages or something, because you want like the shields and whatnot. But yeah, anything's really fine, just as long as you have shields and whatnot. That's basically it. DPS, yeah, just like standard comp works. Like the 2 melee, 1 range, 1 caster, but you can run like double ranged or like double caster. That certainly makes some phases a bit easier. Like I think BJCC would be a lot easier with more ranged and just 1 melee DPS to make it much easier to do. But I don't think it really matters, because by the time you get to like later phases, you should already have gotten like BJCC like consistent enough that it becomes sort of like autonomous to do, I guess, if that's the right word. But yeah, it doesn't matter too much, especially for the later phases. Yeah, like just is what it is. I guess it's good to bring like a caster that can raise, but it's not as important as the other fights, because since T is like really front loaded, and it's also like it's front loaded, but it's also the fact that it's really hard to recover, and there's just some points that are just impossible to recover at the start of the fight. So there are some times, right, where you just, you know, people die or something and you can't recover it, so you just wipe it anyway. So a res caster in a situation like that doesn't really matter. But the times that I think like a res caster is the most important in T would be like during limit cut, where maybe like 1 person like dies in limit cut, and you can get like a res caster to quickly get somebody back up, so they can be up in time for the Nisi spawn in BJCC at the start. The other points will probably be mostly in phase 3, because there's the intermissions, right, where you can like hit the boss. During that time, like before it, you know, somebody messes up like Inception, or somebody messes up, I guess even like if like 1 person like messes up temporal stasis like somehow, right, and it's some also didn't like kill anybody else. Yeah, it's like a red mage or whatever can just quickly get them back up. It's mainly for like Inception, I think, or Wormhole. Wormhole would be nice, right? Like if like a number that is already basically has finished their job and they die, then it's sort of just, yeah, like it's fine. You can just get a red mage to get them back up for the stack, because if one person dies for the stack, you basically need like an extra mitigation, like a Heart of Light or like a Dark Missionary, like the Paladin Wings, like Shake It Off, or like you need like something extra, otherwise you're not going to survive the stack. But yeah, I think that's basically it for party comps, because like if you want like double cards, a double outer will be really nice for a lot of things, because like double melee, like it doesn't, like it's fine obviously, but it just makes BJCC maybe a little bit harder, and just having like 2 feints isn't exactly like the most useful. It's not like there's not a lot of things that you can like feint properly in this fight. Like there's obviously things you can feint, but like having 2 feints is definitely not as good as having 2 addles. So I guess yeah, I guess I'll just reiterate again that before we go into like each phase or whatever, I want to talk about like what prog means in the realm of solved fights, where groups can pick strategies and there is no blind progression involved. Like, this is extremely important in my eyes, because prog is just another word for troubleshooting. Like, troubleshooting will be different based on what type of progression you're doing, obviously. If you're doing like hardcore blind progression, then you have like the added layer of difficulty of not knowing what you're up against. But for most people, you don't do that unless that is the goal to begin with. So it's not really applicable to most people. I can go into like a huge rabbit hole about this topic on blind progression and people wanting to do it, but it's like it's kind of difficult to have like an like authentic experience unless they actually do it on release. But that's not the point of this video, so I'd rather just focus on like progging solved fights, because that applies to most people. So yeah, it's basically just troubleshooting in the realm of having a theory in mind of how to do something, and then going in to see whether or not it works as you envisioned. And you know, if it does, good, keep doing it. If it doesn't, figure out why with the others around you and fix it so it doesn't happen again. So you basically just rinse and repeat that until you're clear, but that's obviously a very like rudimentary explanation of prog, and there is certainly a lot more to do and to think about if you want it to be really fast. So progression in any group that is serious about clearing will always have the constant idea of learning outside of scheduled time and then executing during the raid time until mistakes or problems are found. And then you work around what you can during that time. Like if you come across a problem during a raid night, you simply just work around it, try to do what you can, and then when the raid session is over, go review it in your own time and fix the mistakes that were made and learn further like into the fight, and then do it again when you go back in. For this fight in particular, I always had like multiple sources of information for everything that I did, if you want to get as much info as you can gather. But before each phase or big mechanic, I always went to like Ilya's video, which was like an hour and a half long I think, and just watch him like talk about it, like just watch him talk about like Living Liquid, talk about like BJCC, just that kind of thing. And it was always accompanied with like Sphere's video, where he explained his thoughts on the fight after he cleared it. Because this is more important than just like studying a strategy, right? That someone outlined in a bite-sized video, because that doesn't really teach you shit. Like all you're doing is just like flipping to the answer page on like the back of a book and just suddenly saying that you know how to do it. Like I think mechanics will sink in faster, and you'll be much better performing in raid and more consistent if you studied the mechanics first before the strategy. Because those big videos of like them like explaining like what each thing does and how it interacts, right? And also like what happens if people don't do it correctly, what happens if someone dies here, how to adjust it and fix it, etc. So I think always do that first before study a strategy basically. So for our group, before we even went in, the raid leader basically got us to study up to the start of BJCC, like including like the first few mechanics of BJCC with like the Nisi passes and everything. I think we just had like a 2-hour raid night, but I think it's always good to overshoot your goals, because even if you don't reach them, you would be at a better place than if your goals were low to begin with. So like we know that I think everybody like deep down knew that it wasn't going to happen, but on the first night, like the goal was we would just prog Living Liquid and get limit cut down in 2 hours, right? So we obviously didn't, but we got close to beating Living Liquids. That was good. But yeah, it's always good to always research further, because you know, like just in case you get past something, you get to like start practicing on the next thing that you just started researching on, rather than let's say you get past something like a prog point at an hour and a half in, and then like what do you do for the other half an hour, right? Like the only thing that you can really do then is just like get more consistent at what you have already learned, and then just like bang your head against whatever new stuff is happening, because you don't really know what's going on. So it's always better to study much further ahead, and while taking consideration of like, okay, if tonight we get past this mechanic, what are we likely to see? How easy is the mechanics that are coming up? How much, like if it's really, really easy, then I'm going to have to study a lot more. If it's really, really hard, I'm probably just going to study that and maybe like the next thing after, like just that sort of line of thought. So I guess when talking about like Living Liquid as a phase, this is just a DPS control phase rather than like a DPS check right off the bat, because the DPS check is basically like irrelevant, right? But what you have to do and what you have to think about is the DPS doing like Jackdaws consistently and keeping the bosses within like 5% HP until you've reached the point of just focusing one, because the periodic HP check has already happened. As a DPS, you basically only just have to figure out how you can get Jackdaws down consistently, because it feels utter shit to just wipe at Jackdaws because someone didn't control DPS or didn't plan for it well enough. Everything else that you do in that phase is really just like the mandatory mechanics that everyone else has to do. So that's basically what I mean when I say like Jackdaws is like the only thing you really have to do as a DPS. Now, I think it's actually pretty easy to get Jackdaws down, because it happens so early into the fight and your rotation will always be aligned to the same spot every time. So you always have like the same GCDs and off GCDs up for that moment and to work with when they spawn. This basically means that doing an opener is technically like the starting point in getting Jackdaws down. Like they spawn at 35 seconds and most openers end around like 20-ish seconds in, so you really just have like a bunch of GCDs before they spawn. Another note is that it's also important to figure out like the best opener as soon as possible, because the moment you find something better later on, you also have to consider how it will affect like Jackdaws. And for some jobs that are like really rotation and alignment heavy, it could mean relearning how you do that mechanic. And I had an inkling this would be the case, which was why I mapped out like an optimal opener before we even went in. And funnily enough, the opener that I found while I was like studying different Dragoons through the fight, and I was like looking at what was common, what some people did and what some people like didn't do, and like just questioning like why would they do something like this, why would they not do something like this, and then eventually it just becomes like a rabbit hole of just like slowly calculating everybody's opener and looking at how much potency everything does, and also taking in mind of how the opener like the off GCD usage and whatever like aligns with the rest of the phase and also the rest of the fight. So there's kind of like a lot to look at. So yeah, the opener that I found and basically, well, I didn't exactly like come up with it, but it was sort of like the accumulation of multiple different people, and so I just it was easy to like pick out like what was good from each different like good player that cleared T on Dragoon, and just cherry pick basically. The opener actually that was later put up on the balance Discord like a lot later after it was already found. So always make sure to like broaden your view when it comes to like studying, because you don't want to just take stuff from like one like concentrated reference point. You want to have as much information as possible, because back then I definitely, like, if I would just like follow like what the balance Discord did for like Dragoon or whatever, it's like I definitely wouldn't have found that opener, because that opener would, I don't know when the balance Discord put it in, but it's 100% was a lot later. I'll just quickly show like a picture of like what I did. I don't know if this is actually recording. I think it is. I don't know. So yeah, this is just like the like a whiteboard that I drew up of like the opener. Can I zoom? Oh, I can zoom in. Okay. So it's basically just like 3 different openers, just a standard opener at the time. The Dragoon opener definitely like changed over the raid tiers slightly, because you know, things obviously change based on like new things that I found, or like how things like align to the fight or whatever. Like for example, like the Dark Knight opener, like 3rd GCD Delirium, or like early Delirium was like really popular, like last raid tier in Eden's verse. But in this raid tier, it's not as good, because you don't really need it to align to things as much, from what I've heard. So openers change frequently. So that's just like the standard, the bottom wedge is the standard opener that I did for like single target. FC version, Fang Claw, I'm guessing. Yeah, Fang Claw. A lot of this, like some of these things are, what do you call it? Like just like abbreviations, and some other like letters like here, like Z, like H or whatever, is just based off like my keybinds, because I'm not coming up with like random things that I've like never used and I won't understand, right? But yeah, it's basically just 3 different openers here. This is using like waiting to use like AoE, like later on with the Jagdogs, like the AoE rotation for Jagdog to hit 3 targets. That's if you're like first Jagdog, like the Jagdog like right next to like Living Liquid and Liquid Hand, and Fang Claw is just using what do you call it, Life Surge for Fang Claw instead of full thrust, because you don't even use full thrust. If you do this opener, you can just do your first thing, so right and thrust into true thrust, and basically like restart combo like that, so your chaos thrust gets aligned with the moment the hand spawns. But there are just some things, right, that just like for example, like the DD that I put here after the 5, which is chaos thrust. That's just Dragonfire Dive. Like that's just something that even if you don't really like map out like the best like opener or whatever, you still find like common factors between different people that have done T, and it just obviously it just makes sense, because like Dragonfire Dive, AoE jump does a lot of damage. You might as well save it for when the hand spawns, and delaying it doesn't really affect the alignment, because you're probably not gonna get a second usage of it in the first phase, because you just kill fast enough that you won't see it like long enough to get it. And it's also better in general to just save it for like BJCC, and because there's like limit cut right after like Living Liquid, that downtime will get your Dragonfire Dive back up in time for BJCC. So it's just a bunch of stuff that you have to like look at and then think ahead and just see how things align, and then yeah, that's basically that. But I'm probably gonna make like a separate video on like optimization and just like basic things about like what to look for in the future. But yeah, that's basically just that. I'm probably not gonna go into this in depth. It really is just, I don't know. Yeah, probably not going to go into it. It's pretty just like, I guess like self-explanatory if you just look at every like element. It's just thoughts on Dragoon basically, because this was at a time when I first started playing Dragoon and I didn't really know what I was doing. So there's a lot of stuff here that like any like decent Dragoon player wouldn't have to do, because they would just know, right? But back then I was literally, you know, brand new to the job, so the first thing I did was to bring it to T. So I just put up all this to have to draw out everything to make sure I learn it quick enough. Yeah, that's basically that. I'll take that away. Okay, so I guess like yeah, so once you hit like Jagdogs, you need to make sure that you know how consistent like the exact GCD would be, like the exact GCD that you'll be starting on, and will be there like every time like when they spawn. Okay, so I'm gonna come up with like a situation, right? Like this doesn't really happen, but let's just pretend like, you know, a hypothetical situation where a job is like so like immensely difficult that the optimal opener requires some like crazy timings down to the millisecond to get procs, or something that has like a high chance of messing up and will like change like GCD alignment. So like if you take that into Jackdaws, like no matter how optimal the opener may be, it will literally be the cause of like inconsistency at Jackdaws. So in a case like that, it's definitely better to do something slightly less optimal that you know you can like get consistent to reduce the possibility of messing up Jackdaws. Like that's basically as far as like optimization goes for dolls. And the only other thing I can think of is like correct positioning for when you pick up the doll, and like how to control DPS during it, which I'll quickly like go through it. I'll probably just, I'll bring up like a video to show like the snapshot of like, the state of the arena when Jackdaws spawn. Eggs are taken from like two perspectives. So this is just so I've named it like melee doll. So this is the one where it's closer to the other melee DPS. What the fuck? Yikes. Oh, I don't want to click too far. Okay, here we go. We're just getting like stuff consistent. So the dolls. Oh god, it's so blurry. Okay. Hold on. Let me just quickly. Where is it? A trusty pen. Okay. Okay, so as you can see, the doll always spawns like in like a square pattern. Like you can see that this is like a square pattern. The other variation would be like this. So they always spawn in a square, so it's pretty easy to understand what's going on. But you basically just have to look at which one's yours, right? Like you can spawn here or here, so the monk will be in charge of like these two like pizza slices, and then you basically just have to like that's not yours, that's not yours, and you just focus on these two. Like it's just something that like I don't know if I need to talk about it. It's just like common sense, right? You just like have to like realign yourself with the arena, because like the 3 liquid rages spawn always in this configuration, but just like they can spawn like anywhere, it's random, right? So as long as you sort of like realign yourself, either like turn your camera to like face this way or face your camera to face this, like just whatever you need to do to just make sure you're always looking at the same place when the dog spawns, so you always know like which like 2 tiles is yours. Yeah, so like each DPS just needs to know which ones they're like designated to. You can also always hit the what do you call it, like hit the boss at melee range. Like what I did before basically was when the tank pulls the boss, I can hit the boss from like here, and then as the dolls spawn, I move out to get my doll. There's actually a lot of time, because like the only concern with like staying like too close to the dolls is obviously just the dolls using exhaust, which is just that, which is like the big circles. And if you get hit by 1, it's fine, but if you get like Venn diagrammed hit by 2, you just like die and you kill everybody else that's around you. And that's basically like a wipe. You can recover from it, but it's kind of iffy. It's kind of very iffy. So yeah, this melee is obviously like the the easiest role because you can just sit on the boss and then you just like look backwards and you hit the doll. It's really easy. But since I was the other melee, which I'm positioned over here, you can just hit it and then run back. I pop sprint. That's just out of habit. You don't actually need sprint, but it's just, again, just one of those things that I started doing it early on and I just kept doing it, and it just it just adds to consistency because like I'm not just gonna like randomly just stop using it, right? But I think I did actually like pop it like pre-pull by accident, and then I tried it and I was like, oh, okay, just enough time for it, and so you don't really need it. And plus you don't really need it for the rest of the phase anyway, I guess, unless you get like a really like tight window in like baiting like Proteans. Maybe like the second set of like Proteans, you got like a really weird timing and you like pops, but like I don't really see it. I don't really see why you would need sprint. So yeah, that's basically fine. Now, yeah, so the dolls, oh my god, why is that so, what the hell did I just do? It's huge. Oh, okay, that's good. So, let me change color. So for example, where I'm at, the doll like spawns here, or it can spawn like here. So what I found is that no matter where the doll spawns, you can always hit it at max melee range and not get Venn diagrammed. You just gotta find like the spot that works. So for me, if the doll like spawns like here and here, my safe spot's about like here. It's just like always like in the middle of the line. It's the same up here because I've had the opportunity to do 3 different Jackdoll locations. So yeah, I can talk about like 3 of them, just not the one that spawns like southwest-ish, so like this one. Hold on, let me get rid of it. I can't talk about the one that spawns here or here. Just this I cannot talk about because I've never done it before. But that's always like the ranged or like a caster in my experience, so I've never had to do that. Maybe it will change if you do the strat where you pull Living Liquid like down this way instead of like pulling it between the north and east liquid rages. So maybe if you do that and you have like a melee like position on this doll and then you have a melee position on this, like maybe I guess, but yeah, I don't really have any experience with that one, but I've worked it out for this one, and this one, and yeah, it all works. You can always hit the doll at max melee range, so there's no trouble with that. It's just like around like this spot, somewhere around there for this one, somewhere around here for that one, and then for this one at the top here, this one's actually a little weird. Because if the doll spawns here, it's really easy. You can just like stand here or whatever and just hit the doll and not get like it's no problem. Like you can even stand kind of close to it. It doesn't really matter because you're not going to get Venn diagrammed by that or that. Whereas like this one, you don't want to. Like this one, you don't want to be like too close this way because if you stand here, you can bait the Protean, so you don't want to do that. You want like a healer over here, so they're doing that. So I kind of have to like stand like over here to be in the middle, and yeah, that usually works. Because I remember at the start, maybe I was like too close to over here to like the right or something, and I actually like accidentally took the dancer's Protean. So yeah, it's just just stay in the middle, and always pop true north. Like regardless if I'm here or here. Just pop true north. I'm not dealing with like running behind the thing, and like I don't even know if that even like works properly, and like even if it does, the window will be really tight and you probably have a chance of getting like Venn diagrammed, so it's better to be consistent and just pop true north there and just take a loss in the future. But I guess it depends on your job, right? It depends on your job. Like different jobs have like different like positional requirements, and some are like more modular than others, so I guess it really depends on the job. But I've only played Dragoon, and maybe this rotation doesn't really allow that to work, and maybe others do, but yeah, that's just what it is. But the one up here, if the doll spawns here, I get to like max melee about this spot right here, like where this like little like corner of the slice is, And then as I hit it for like a GCD, and I know that exhaust is about to come out, I just like wiggle out. And then I just like high jump and then I run back in. Because I have had a time where I got Venn diagrammed there when I was doing it from that location. And it's pretty weird, but yeah, I think I'm getting Venn diagram from this one that spawns here. So like something like that. But it's, yeah. The other way I've done it recently is just like I hit it and then I go like here because the proteins are already like snapshotted, and I just quickly run here and hit it from here, and that's okay as well. Let's see what else. Yeah, I also have Gear Skogel up there, up here as Dragoon. I guess you can see it's coming up. So Gear Skogel is interesting, right? Because like if you hit it from like if I'm standing here and I hit the doll here, the Gear Skogel is going to be like this. So you can hit the other melee's doll if you do that, and like it's obviously like a DPS game, but it will make jag dolls like more inconsistent because the person you snipe will have to know how to adjust their DPS based off of like a 50% chance that you will tap it with a 300 potency move, which I mean like most people can't really do it, and it's kind of like minor enough that it's just better to not do it at all. The only time I do it is when I get like the spawn where it's like here and I can like hit the dancer's doll, because dancer's like always like slow with the doll, because I mean the dancer doesn't really do a lot of damage compared to like melee DPS burst and whatnot, right? So, or maybe they're just like hitting the doll a little bit and like hitting the boss or something, I don't know. Because they're always like last feed and it takes a really long time because like I guess they just don't really do a lot of potency, right? So it doesn't really matter. I usually just do it because if the worry about like hitting the melee one is that the monk can burst it like fast. So if they're bursting it fast, because the game registers like the HP hits like kind of like in chunks and it's kind of slow to register, you can hit something and then like a split second later it like already drops from like another person hitting it or something. Then that's really like inconsistent, and yeah, it's kind of difficult to control something like that, so you might as well just not do it. But I do it on the dancer because obviously it's slow. So the way I deal with not sniping another doll here is to just hit like the GCD I need before exhaust goes out, and then I run behind the doll. So like if I'm standing here, there's like a snapshot, right? You just get used to it by like what GCD you are on, and then I basically just start running like this. Like this is exaggerated, this curve. It's not really like that. Like basically just like run through, right? But there's this curve or whatever, and then I basically just point it backwards so I don't hit it. That's basically like the safety thing here. But from this position I know it's fine, because from this position here you can just like angle yourself, just like position yourself and just look at where the thing will hit, and you can sort of like do like something like this. And it's usually pretty consistent because by the time that comes out, this doll would have already like moved like slightly to like here or something, and this doll is already like over here, so you can sort of like point it like this way, I guess. So that's okay. I guess yeah, a lot of people also talk about like crit RNG when it comes to dolls, but I don't think it's actually that big of a deal, because you should already know how much your moves do, and you always accommodate for the highest common factor. So if the doll is at like 50k HP, right, and your next move can do like 40k, but if a crit direct hits, it will kill your doll, then it will literally be your fault if it died, like not RNG. Like it's just a matter of like considering the range of damage your abilities do, and if like the highest possible number, which would be a crit direct hit with a plus 5% damage variance, like if that would probably kill the doll, then just don't use it and just like restart the combo or something. But when you get there like more often, you'll very quickly learn like what GCD is the first GCD you will hit with the hit like the doll with, and how many abilities you will use afterwards, and like plus or minus like X amount, right, to like adjust for variance. For example, on Dragoon, I always like dot living liquid before I go out, so I'll be here. Oh my god, why does it keep doing that? Okay, so I like run up here, I dot living liquid, and then I run out after I hit the dot, which is actually this GCD here. This GCD here, I hit this GCD and then I immediately run out. It's just one of those like, it's just like a personal like rotational tell to let me know that I have to move out. And then I always start hitting the doll with wheeling thrust, and then I have a high jump after that, and then a fang claw, and then a double weave gear skogel and mirage dive, and then have a right and thrust into a disembowel, and then I'll be walking back in to like feed the doll, but to also like dot the hand. Now I know with what I have there is a range of how many I need to use. So the fastest I've ever seen my doll get under 25% HP feed is just from, let me see, I don't know, I can write this on the screen. So I'll just use like my own like naming conventions and whatnot, right? So basically just wheeling thrust into high jump. God damn. Okay, here we go. Oh, okay. Into high jump, and then okay. Yeah, then fang claw. I gotta like remember what the hell like half the shit is called. Fang claw, and then there should be gear skogel and mirage dive. And then how about gear skogel? I don't know actually know how to. I wrote it down before. I don't actually know how to like. G-E-I-R? Gear skogel? I think so. So yeah, this I think the mirage. I don't think I actually had to use the mirage dive. It was something really, really ridiculous like this. It was crazy. It was like these four things, and I managed to get the doll low enough to feed. Like maybe like they all just like crit direct hit or something. It was ridiculous. But the slowest I've had to do it was have to gear. I'll just put it in a different color. Let's see. So yeah, gear skogel. God, what? Okay, I'm not. God, okay. I'm not doing this. I don't know what the hell's going on. High jump. And then fang claw. Then gear skogel. Okay. Now I should be able to change color, hopefully. Okay, good. And then mirage, I'll just call it MD. And then mirage dive into right and thrust. Right-in? I think that's how you write it. Yeah, I think so. And then disembowel. I'll just write it this. Okay. So that's basically like the range of like the quickest and like the slowest. It's like requiring like a lot of like extra stuff. But usually the crits I usually always hit like the right and thrust. Like usually the mirage dive at most is the quickest. And then it's really just like, do I use this? Or do I need to use this? Or do I have to like, it's really like still really high HP percent, I'll have to use this as well. And yeah, that's basically just, I don't know, just DPS thoughts. It's not really that much to think about, I think. It's just a few GCDs and a few stuff they have to do. So you basically just have to see that range of skills that you use for dolls, and then it's kind of easy to focus on a specific point of time during dolls to see like the doll's HP percentage and how to adjust it. So in that a few GCDs that I did, I know that but like I guess by the time I hit like the gear skogel, or around the time I hit like the fang claw or something, I'm already like looking at the HP and knowing like what I need to use next, like how many things do I need to use, do I actually need to spend like an extra GCD hitting it, if I don't, then I'll just keep like moving towards the the boss so it can feed quicker. Yeah, it's just basically just that. If you're on the doll in front of the boss, if you don't kill it fast enough, so if you're, hold on, sorry, let's go, okay, here we go. So if you're this doll feed here, and you know that you're not feeding it fast enough, the problem is the tanks have to move the thing back into the middle because of the embolus that spawns. So embolus, for example, like can spawn here and here, or like here and here, or whatever, and you gotta like move the tanks have to move the boss back because the embolus will spawn and they'll start moving to where the bosses were at the time of when they like spawned or something like that. So, and well, if the embolus hits like any like entity, like the two bosses, or it hits like a player or something, like it will just wipe. So I think a lot of tanks actually use the embolus spawn as their tell to start moving back. I guess when they get like their rotation down, they can use their rotation to tell as well, but it's basically just around like that point. And as the first feed, you have to know that they're gonna have to pull it in, whether they might use like the embolus as a tell, or even if they don't use the embolus as a tell. When you see the embolus spawn, you should know that the boss is going mid very soon. But you should know like beforehand of like just like a general like vibe of when you're gonna feed the doll, like, oh, this is probably gonna be like a few seconds later, like a GCD or two later, something like that. If that happens, you have to pull this doll to either over here or over here. You can't leave it here, because if you keep it there, if you keep the doll like here or here, as the boss gets pulled in, it's just gonna like automatically feed and just wipe if it's too high. So I think what our monk does is that he pulls it like this way if my doll is slow as well, because like I have to put in like extra GCDs, right? Then you'll pull it this way, because the issue with leaving like two dolls that kind of close for a long period of time is the next exhaust will come up, which I think they happen on like 10-second intervals. So after the first one, you got like 10 seconds to basically like burst it down, or like if two dolls are close together and somebody's close to one of the dolls, they're going to get killed by the two exhausts going out. So I think he pulls it that way because our red mage takes their doll a bit further back, if I remember correctly. So like here's fine, but it might be a little like sketchy. So it's a lot safer if he pulls it over to me, but that's only if I feed first, like feed quickly enough, which usually is the case, because it's very unlikely, or kind of unlikely, that both the melee DPS have like bad crit and have to put in like extra like GCDs to put it in. So usually, like for example, if he doesn't crit, like maybe like I'll still crit, but in the off chance that we both don't crit, he takes it like over here. If I feed it really quickly, he pulls it over here, and then he basically has like all the space in the world, and it's really easy to adjust from there. Pulling the jag dolls is really just like, it's the same thing as like moving the boss as a tank. You just hit it, walk out like out of like melee range to like get them to start moving, and then you walk back in to hit the next GCD and whatever. Like it's just like positioning, like moving the boss as a tank. It's basically the same thing. Is that it for? Oh, I can talk about like mitigation and like healing. Yeah, that's probably important as well, because you have to make sure the feeds are like on time, or roughly on time, because the problem is that like you can feed like two dolls at once, right? Like some groups like to do one doll feed into one doll feed into one into one. Like usually this doesn't like happen. It's usually more around like you like accommodate for possibly like a 2 into 2 feed, like so like both of us feed, and then as the boss comes into middle, both of these feed around, like it's something like that. But obviously the feed timings will obviously could be like a GCD different here and there, because it's very unlikely that all 4 DPS are going to have like the same like crit RNG to get everything in at the same time. But it's just something that you can easily just accommodate for, so it's not really a problem. You just gotta put it in, because if there's like 3 dolls going in at once, you're gonna like wipe unless you have like extremely heavy mitigation, which the extremely heavy like mitigation you probably won't have, because you'll be using it like beforehand, or you'll be using it like after, saving it for after. And so like all you'll have is the stuff that you'll be saving after, right? So you got like all this stuff that you gotta like jam in and everything, and it's probably gonna, yeah, it's not good. It's not good. So always just like feed 2 or feed 1 at a time. But yeah, 2 is the maximum. But you just want it to be like on time, because you don't want the healers to have to deal with like variability between like different dolls. So like maybe like the healers are ready to like shield and like get like a raw GCD heal out on time. Like if you suddenly decide to feed the doll extremely late, and then the other person does something similar, like what if they put all the heals out and everything, and then suddenly it's like, whoa shit, like are you guys feeding, are you guys not feeding, like what's going on? Like it's kind of like rough on the healers, because they're basically doing like the same thing, like their rotation, right? They're looking to be like as consistent as they can, and adding it like inconsistency, not only will it affect you, it will affect them as well. I guess it's probably worse if you do like super yeah, like super early feeds would probably be worse than late feeds, because if you do like so let's say we feed these 2 in, right, and then these guys decide to like feed like 1 or 2 as well, like you have to like keep track of your party list HP to make sure to know when you have to feed. Like even if like our monk feeds his first, and then I should be feeding immediately after, because that's just like what like I've learned to do. Before you do that, you always check the party list, because for example if the healers like missed a heal or they slightly messed up, like it would still be partially your fault if you wiped like a lack of healing, because you should have looked at the party list and made sure that people were healthy enough for you to actually feed. Because if they're not, you should just like keep it out and then wait for the healing to come, or like, just let people know that okay, I'm not going to feed yet because I'm waiting for the health. For our health to go up, just something like that. You just have to keep track of, because if you feed too early and it's kind of unfortunate. It's a pretty tough situation, right? I guess also being like range of like heals and shields, especially the shields, right? Like you just have to pay attention, because I think at some times I've watched like other people proc T as well, and I've had issues where like a ranged or like a caster is like baiting here, and then like the healer, maybe like the healer here moves in to do like a sucker or something, like they're not gonna hit this guy. So unless this guy moves in, or the healer like moves like closer to over here, and then that will be like maybe at risk of like not getting somebody else, or just something like that. It's just always keep in mind to stay in range of like heals and shields. And if your strat for some reason like means that you absolutely can't, then you just have to pop like personal mitigation or just something like that. It's basically the only thing that you can do. But yeah, just make sure when you're also like feeding to walk through the boss. So like the boss being like here, right? I like to like move to like here to feed. Don't just like go into the middle, because the dolls are really like annoying to feed sometimes. It's not really a problem for melee DPS, but I've seen issues come up with it before, and it's kind of annoying to deal with. Yeah, just always walk through it. Like this, like it's a win-win situation for me, so I can't really say anything, because there's a positional that I get there too with the hand where I hit Chaos Thrust to dot it. But I think it's still good practice to do for everybody else, to just minimize problems of not being like far enough in, and this mainly just for 3rd and 4th doll feeds, because like even if I leave the doll here, as long like for example if the monk feeds it first, right, and I don't feed it far enough, the boss is already coming middle, so it's just gonna like automatically like tether, right? But yeah, the boss like as it is here, it would be like stationary, So these two people are gonna have to like feed it like properly. But I don't think, yeah, I don't think we've had problems with that, but I know it's a possibility. So the rest of the phase after this isn't really a thing to talk about. I think I'll just quickly just show this. Yeah, like that's the movement for quickly getting in. Just, you know, keep GCD rolling. Do what you gotta do. Yep. God damn, missed it. God, I couldn't talk about that. Alright. Yep, that's basically. Oh yeah, we also have a sacred soil there. So, I mean, so like as you can see here, the sacred soil there is just for like the damage reduction, safety. I guess it's like it's for the regen as well, right? But like the damage mitigation is pretty big for safety there. Yeah, I don't, because if you look at like this, right? If you look at this situation where like you see how like the sacred soul is a bit like further behind, right, to like accommodate for where the boss is going to move to. Why is it not playing? There it is. So if I feed the doll, like if I was like feeding, if I was here and the boss is like a bit further back like this, and if I feed the doll, I don't actually have to like feed the doll and run into the sacred soil just to like get like the active mitigation or whatnot, because like it's just one of those things where you look at like what's going to happen afterwards. Like you have to like sort of understand what your healers are trying to do. You have to understand like how much the healers are actually relying on their sacred soil. So I actually stay in it a lot at the start, but then when I realized that, okay, so like this is like after the feeds, right? So there's one more, I think, the monk feeds. Boom. Okay, so health is down here, and you can see that like they just like heal you. What is that, plenary and everything, right? Plenary, rapture and everything. It's like, so they give you all of this healing. Like, so me like sacrificing a position or just to be in the sacred soul to feed my doll at the start would have literally meant nothing. So, because like I'd get like overhealed here anyway. So I don't think it really matters, because like it's just like I'm not gonna die from 2 feeds. That's not gonna happen. And if I get low enough, I'll just pop a second wind. That's fine. And they're really just healing us back up for the in anticipation for these 2 dogs, so it doesn't really matter. Yep. I like to feint that. I just like to feint the living liquid there. It hits like the main target. Well, I guess the bosses are hitting like both the tanks at once, but that's the most important one, because I think I'll tank. Yeah, I think they involve. I don't actually know what the tanks do. I just trust what the hell they're gonna deal with, and I just know that, you know, nobody invulns there. So it's like, well, I should feint it, because it's like not only there's a tank buster, but there's also like a lot of auto attacks there, and the auto attacks like chunk a lot of damage. So it's just one of those things that you just like figure out, oh okay, it's probably a good spot to feint, because there's nothing really else that you can feint. You can feint like early on in the boss, but like for like the first swipe. But this is like a good spot as well, because like our other melee is doing that. So yeah. So again, the rest of the phase, there isn't anything to think about, to be honest. Like just go like through the motions and understand what you have to do. Just build the muscle memory of like what you have to do for the Proteans, who's doing what, who's baiting what. The best thing you can do is basically just keep your rotation aligned to the fight mechanics. And once you figure out how you can play the phase with your rotation, you'll very quickly fall into like autopilot, and the phase just dies before you know it. I guess the only thing you really have to pay attention to is to like stay like south enough to not get hit by the tank busters, like the swipe thing like here, or you know, like the drainage, right? And also remember to like hit tab a lot between GCDs to check like the health percentage, and focus up on the movement for Protean baits. Like, yeah, like outside of drag dogs, the rest of the phase is really just like building muscle memory and of what you need to do, and I basically just found it the easiest to do it with my rotation, and I'm sure like basically everybody else does the same, because it's about the only like dynamic factor. After you bait like the first Proteans of like second cascade, you just basically just burst down living liquid, because that's basically it, right? Because like I don't think it's possible to see enrage on that, enrage on that shit if people are like actually like clicking the buttons for real. And yet like the last hand of pain, like the health check is about there, so it's fine. I guess we'll talk about go to limit cut. Where's my boy? Here we go. Great mechanic. So, a lot of people talk about limit cut as a wall, but I think it's just a matter of perspective and how you think of and visualize the mechanic. The important note here is that I think this mechanic is the first one where everyone will all see it in their own way, and different things, I find different things difficult about it. The second point is to understand the different strategies for it, because like I think the main two strategies is the 1256 strat and the Mario Kart strat. The other ones are basically just like extremely convoluted, I think, by nature, because there were, you know, super early strategies that people came up with, and like I think Mario Kart and whatever is like early as well, but you know, it's just like cherry picking like a good one out of like many like mediocre ones. So yeah, the two main strategies that people do now is like 1256 and Mario Kart, rather than some really weird shit where you have to like run across the arena to do stuff. So I've done both strategies, and I think the core difference is just that they both shirk difficulty to different points of the mechanic. And based off of what you personally find difficult, it will mean that like neither strategy is better or worse, and it simply comes down to how you see the mechanic. So for me personally, I find the hardest part of limit cut is knowing where to go at the start when you get your number, and then everything after that I find really easy. But for some people, I know that knowing where to go at the start is easy, but knowing when like each cone and dash goes off is the difficult part for them. 1256 I think is harder for the people that find difficulty in knowing where to go at the start, but easier for the rest of the mechanic, as it is only like 4 people in each side, right? And they give like a lot of room for the people baiting. Whereas Mario Kart is easier at the start because everyone goes to the same side, but it is harder for the rest of the mechanic because the windows of baiting is much tighter and more prone to error. So for me, I found Mario Kart easier at the start when learning it, but as time went on and seeing like my number and knowing where to go, and like, you know, like that all became like second nature to me. Doing 1256 with another group actually became the easier alternative. So that's, I guess that's just something interesting to consider. So I think, objectively speaking though, like 1256 could actually be better to learn, because I think you learn the mechanic better, and like you understand it more because you have to think more about like the timings of everything yourself. Something very interesting about 1256 is that like I've seen multiple versions of it, and like, so some groups do 1256 left, some do 1256 right, some do 1256 north, and others do it south. But the way I think about being able to adjust to any version of that strategy is to literally just turn your camera to a location that forces the variant of the strategy to be the same as the one that you're used to. So for example, if you're used to like 1256 left, right, so like I know, like, you know, it's like this, right, like the explosions, but let's just say the explosions happen directly like this. So like this is left, this is right. So imagine like just like this is how it is, but like it obviously isn't, but for the sake of like explanation, this makes it a lot easier. So let's just say this is how it works, right? And so let's just say we're doing 1256 left, and then 3, 4, 7, 8 right. If you're used to it the other way around, like 3, 4, 7, 8 left, 1256 right, you don't actually have to relearn the mechanic. So like every time limit cut happens, every single group always just says to look at like one marker, or look at A, look at like something left to this side, let's look at a marker on this side, or just look at a certain direction, like look north, look west, or whatever, right? So when everybody else is doing that, instead of looking north, you just look south. Because if you look south, then it's flipped. So, and if it's flipped, it's basically the same strategy that you were doing before. Because if you're looking at that way, obviously their right becomes your left. So although it's 3, 4, 7, 8 right for them, if you look south, it's 3, 4, 7, 8 left for you. So I think, yeah, it's definitely like the most free and like modular strategy, because as long as you know like one way to do it, you basically have learned every single different variant. And you can just adjust to anything on the fly. So like you're subbing in for a group, or you're doing reprog or whatever, it's basically just the exact same thing. So I don't think this... Yeah, that's basically it. The way I got like the numbers down, going like the right way for 1, 2, 5, 6, is literally just by chanting like 1, 2, 5, 6 left, or whatever like side it is in my head, and then just visualize the arena in a way that I can see the sides clearly. So like maybe you can like visualize a line down the middle. So like this time I'll draw it properly. God, where is it? Okay. So usually, okay, let's just draw like the circles. That probably makes it easier. It's just, okay. This probably is quite bad. It's just, okay, let's just do that. Let's just do that. That works. And then for blue, like this. I can't see. What? Okay. Like this, and then there's another one like here, or whatever, like just something like that. It's pretty badly drawn. But, okay, like, you get the point, right? So, let's get like, okay, it's yellow. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so maybe it's easier for somebody to like look at it like with like a line drawn or something. Maybe it's easier for them to like, instead of like visualizing the line through the middle to split the arena, maybe it's easier for some people to like imagine the first and the last ones that go off. Or just come up with like your own system, basically. You come up with your own way of figuring out how to do something, and basically just stick with it. Because well, for me, it's like the start of it is the hardest. So I had to make sure I found a personal way to get that down consistent. So yeah, what I just did is just focus on the left side, no matter like how you do it. Chant 1, 2, 5, 6 left. The moment I see, and then the moment I see the number, it makes it like blatantly obvious if it isn't 1, 2, 5, 6. And then if it isn't 1, 2, 5, 6, like if I see the number and it's clearly not 1, 2, 5, 6, I just start immediately walking to the other side. And as I'm walking to the other side, I figure out my number on the way. So, like obviously, I think always chant 1, 2, 5, 6 instead of 3, 4, 7, 8, because if you do it that way, like you're always chanting like 3, 4, 7, 8 left, or 3, 4, 7, 8 right. If you do that thing of just like, if it's not 3, 4, 7, 8, you start walking the other way. Like, if you happen to get like 1 or 2, and you're like trying to like figure out like the number on the way to here, it's already going to be like too late. Or like it could be too late, because 1 and 2 has to run up to the third explosion like really quickly on 1, 2, 5, 6. So if you're doing that, it's like a split second slower, and it could cause a level of like inconsistency. So I think at the start, just focus on 1, 2, 5, 6 instead. So oh yeah, so yeah, I guess after that is the cone and dashes, like the CC stuff. Oh, I don't actually know what the hell they're called, like hawk blasters or something. So I think for 1256 at least, I correlated the different sets, which are like 1 2 is a set, 3 4 is a set, 5 6 is another one, and 7 8 is the last, to the number of explosions. So like the odd numbers always bait the cone, right? And then the even numbers bait like the corresponding like dash to the number like before them. So like 1 baits the cone and then 2 baits the dash, right? So the evens basically have like the easier way out, because they basically can just like follow the odd number, right? Because if they go ahead of the odd number and the odd number is slow, you're gonna die, because if you walk too far ahead, you're gonna get hit by their cone because that they were slow, and then you get hit by a dash, and then the dash pointing in the wrong direction, you could kill somebody, and you'll obviously die because you can't get hit by 2 of them at the same time, or 2 of them in like that period of time. So it's always better to just like follow the odd number, and if the odd number is slow, get them to like walk up. But the odd number is basically the ones where we have to do like the most like thinking. So 1 always walks into the 3rd explosion, like including like the first one that you see spawn. So like everybody's in the middle now, you hear like the explosion, like the boom, right? That's 1. Here we go, and then suddenly like that's 2, and then like that's 3. So when I say walk into the 3rd explosion, as the 3rd explosion goes off, you walk up to the line that is in the middle of the 3rd explosion, but not past it. Because limit cut the explosion's optical sights. Let me draw it better. So like if you see like the pizza slice here, including like the middle, like the dot here, the circle explosion is always within like the 2 slices. It will never go over a line. It'll only be like there'll be 1 line in the middle, obviously, but there is always it's never going to pass the other 2 lines. So, but that's also like the foundation of the Mario Kart strat, because as it goes off like this, the safe spots are actually in the little areas. So instead of walking up to the line, you have to know to walk a little bit further in on the edge of the arena, which I guess can cause some problems with some people, but I guess that's like as far as the complexity for that mechanic goes, which I don't think is that high, but it's definitely more to think about through the mechanic than 1256, I think, in my opinion at least. So yeah, 1 walks into the 3rd explosion, 3 walks into the 4th explosion, which, so it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, and then 6, right? You always just walk up to, oh sorry, 6 would be like this, so you basically always just walk up to the 4th explosion like that. Hold on, let me get rid of that. So you always just walk up to like the 4th explosion and stay there, because you're here, right? 4 goes off, you run over here and you stay there, because then it'll be 5 and then it'll be 6, and then so yeah, that one you gotta make sure you get right. And then 5 walks into the 7th explosion, and then 7 walks into either the 8th or 9th. Just coordinate that with your group. But I think when we did 1256, it's just, I don't think we even coordinated that. Just something that you just adjust to, like the even number, whoever's behind you, like they were just good enough to just know that like early on that you basically just you don't dictate the pace, you follow the pace of the odd number. So it's basically just that same idea. It's just something that you can easily adjust to, but I guess if it makes it easy, just coordinate that. So I think with this in my mind, I get the arena split down really fast, and as well as the rest of the mechanic consistent too. Oh yeah, I guess for a point of like for the mechanics, to make sure you run on the inner ring if you are like doing the baiting. So the inner ring would be like this stuff, right? Like this, like in between the lines, where there's this like slightly like darker brownish section with the lights in it, like in them. That's the inner ring. And then if you're outside from that point to the edge, that's the outer ring. So if you're doing the baiting, bait in that segment, and then if you're not baiting, run out, because you want like the people to like bait the dash, right, and like the cone, and you don't want people to be behind or in front, you want people to be on the sides. And then after you bait and you know that this group's going to be next or whatever, you just like swap as you're running to the next one. Just something to consider. But yeah, Mario Kart you don't really have to, well, I guess they've got a different, you know, set of difficulty, but more or less it's the same, right? Yeah, so for Mario Kart, you have to know the size of the explosions and walk into the open slot created by the circle. I don't actually know if this monitor, this wide monitor might actually like stretch to the arena. Probably does, but for reference, so as I said that they go in between these things. I can't really draw here. Oh, maybe I can, but I don't know how, like, when I upload this, I don't know how like bad the resolution is gonna get. So, like, okay, I'm gonna kind of attempt to draw on both different sides. So if this is one explosion, right, I'll draw it slightly bigger so you can see like the outer ring. For the outer ring, you see like these like little like squares. Like if you zone into the arena, you'll definitely see like these little like rectangles, I guess, not squares. And you basically just walk into one of these to bait them as like the safe spot for the next one. So if like if this one went off, and you know the next one is going to be this, right? So I'm going to get rid of that second one, but like you know that like that's going to be the second one. If that's going to be the second one, like here, the safe spot would be, oh god, I got the wrong one. Hold on, let's see what the eraser. The safe spot would be here on that square. So because the next explosion is going to look sort of, I don't know how to draw this properly without like butchering it, but it's like, oh god. Okay, just imagine it's something like that, right? Like there's like a little like segment there, but like if you just follow that these little like square like rectangle, right? These little rectangles, as long as you're on like the closer like right side of the rectangle, you're safe. And then if you're baiting the dash, just go on the left side of the adjacent rectangle and you'll be safe for that as well. And yeah, that's basically the little safe detail for that. Or you can do the strat where you just the cone baits it out and then the dash baits it this way, like that, and then everybody's like here and they're running along and they're just, I don't know, I guess that works as well. That might be easier actually, but we didn't do that. So yeah, some people yeah, so like going back on like the same line as people seeing the mechanic differently. Some people find it easier to count the explosions 1 to 10, and then other people find it easier to count to 5 and then restart the count. This is a time where it's sort of like, if it's not the one that you're used to, either just listen to the call and like relearn it, or just like try to like shut it out and like count for yourself in your head, or like put yourself on mute and like count out loud. That's basically just the two things that you can sort of work around. But yeah, that's basically for limit cut really. The knockback prevention timings is pretty self-explanatory. Like if when you walk into the explosion that you are baiting in for both the strats, you just pop it right before you reach there and you will be fine. If you are even number, you can do that too. Like using the same tail, but I think it's just safer to just like when you see the cruise chaser spawn to hit the cone, that's when you can hit it, and you basically never be like early or late if you do it on time like that. I guess something that I really need to like interject here is like burst timings for the fight. The thing about this fight with how basically like the phases are isolated and don't really interact with each other, like outside of like the Enigma Codex, of course, but it's basically that like getting past each phase is only like indicative of what happens within that phase. So with DPS checks never carrying over, and also like no mechanics really carrying over, the past in general is not what actually matters, but rather how much you put into the times that actually matter. So it's basically like, if you're already beating the check in here, there's not really a point in adding more DPS into it if you're beating it already easily. You might as well put it into the next phase that you're like currently learning or whatever. So like I guess like this technically does translate to like higher passes and whatnot compared to just playing shit. But I think the way I want to talk about it, and like the way I do it, like it would never be like the most optimal in passing, but it would be extremely useful in progression. Like I just wanted to like quickly mention it here, right before we're going to BJCC, as this is like the first time here that I've like I came up with this way of handling personal damage in prog, but I'll timestamp it to like a later time in the video where I will like put it all together and talk about it in depth with all the phases considered. But this is definitely important, so I recommend like checking that part out. So BJCC, where are we in the fight? There we go. Guess we'll just let this keep playing. BJCC, this phase is interesting to learn, and where I think the most differences will be from group to group in terms of like strategy and like different ways you can do it. So the main the main two strategies is to either split the bosses or stack the bosses, right? But even within those two variants, it branches off into like a million different ways. And it's mainly due to like two things, which is like priority systems you create and movement optimization. Well, I guess you could say like, you know, like how you bait mines or whatever, like that still matters, and how it will change like the strat slightly. But that typically remains kind of like static or whatever, because you just like, okay, so like the first water goes here, the mines go here, like after you serve a few times it just becomes like the same. But some difficulty from like the different strats can come from you know, like more dynamic things, which is like where people will stand, like whether this person will hit a positional here or not, that person's going to go there to do this, right? So, but like apart from that, right, like the phase itself isn't hard, but the difficulty comes from like an EC that forces you to optimize micro movement with the people around you. The majority of the time when we progged BJCC, I think it was really just troubleshooting movement priority. Like if I'm killing shield standing like, you know, somewhere here, and then I need to like pass to the tank on the other side, like who is in my way, like who is in the way of me, and like how do I get there without running into people, like that sort of thing is what you need to like be thinking about throughout the phase. But once you get that down, the phase isn't really that bad. Plus like the last minute of the phase is really just a joke anyways, so like after gavel it's just smooth sailing. So it's basically just like a 2-minute phase, even though it says it's 3. The point in this phase is just to like not greed and just play super safe for prog. Like the reason is similar to Living Liquid, where I think the DPS check is actually like irrelevant, and it's basically just a test of whether or not you can do the mechanics. Which is, I don't know, like it's a shame, but hey, I mean, it made prog super quick, right? Because we all played safe and we just crushed it. As a melee there, I think there are times that I can like loop around the boss, right? I guess this freeze frame is not a good example, but you know, like I'm like standing, holy crap, that's huge. So just say I'm like standing like here, and then, you know, I'm hitting the bosses on the side, and I can get like a position where if I loop around, but like the tank's here, so I have to loop around on like the like over here, like this way to hit it max melee, and then loop around or whatever. Like I can do stuff like that, but it's sort of like I'd rather just take the positional loss and just keep my movement super static during prog, just so other people around me don't ever like accidentally run into me. This is mainly just because I always have so many people around me for this strat, and I'm always kind of like sandwiched in the middle, so I feel like it will prolong prog and make it like much longer than it needs to be if I choose to get more DPS, which is why I didn't go for it, as it wasn't needed. Now, like obviously if the DPS check was actually super tough, then I would have immediately like spoken up and asked for like adjustments so I can get more like damage to like into meat checks. But it's sort of like, why add artificial difficulty when it isn't needed to clear? Because it's one of those things, right, where like if the damage isn't needed, then me trying to push more at the risk of putting an extra layer of inconsistency is just selfish, because greed at that point will result in like wasting other people's time for no real good reason. So this is basically just my train of thought and my reasoning for playing super safe here. if people just respect mechanics and also the people around them, it's really not that hard of a phase. The only thing that can be tough is, though, I think it's probably just getting all the mechanics that will happen in your head at the start, because if you go through it fast, it feels like one of those like rhythm games where suddenly just like a million things starts coming at you and you need to like react to all of them. Of course you should be like proactive in your gameplay, but that's a big ask if you're just seeing a phase for the first few times and you're gunning through it from what you remember from guides and references. The way I managed to get it down is just write up like a list of what is happening on a notepad and just like overlay it on my screen. This is basically like the first point in the fight where I really used like screen overlays and whatnot, and it continued for the rest of the fight. Then as you are like progressing through, you can get rid of them like one by one because you've already learnt it, and then replace it with the new ones for the new prog point that you're up to. But that isn't really a problem. Like I found out, like, you know, I thought that would be a good idea to write like a sentence or something, but when you're actually playing, you don't have the time to read shit like that. So it's just sort of, it's just like quick like keywords, right? It's just like, okay, Nisi, Protean, Nisi, shield, Nisi. It's just like, okay, so like shield, Nisi just means like, it's very obvious, just like after I kill the shield, pass the Nisi. And that's like, I don't use any of like the ACT shit like CACbot and stuff. So because like the only problem I really see with it is like, obviously you'd rather like figure out the mechanics and like do it like properly yourself and have to think for yourself rather than have like a system like tell you how to do it. But obviously I think the other bigger problem is when like ACT goes down because the opcodes change. You know, not only ACT goes down, but CACbot will go down as well, so you can't raid without it. And this other way of doing it is a lot better because it's not attached to the game in any way. It's not attached to like a software that has to be like manually adjusted by like other people as new stuff comes out. So even when there's like blind prog and like new releases and new updates, you can easily still like keep overlaying stuff on your screen and it still won't matter. I think a lot of like, well, not a lot, I think like some world prog people actually do that, where they just overlay like timelines, or they overlay like certain notes on their screen to help them out, because that's just, you know, like if there's an advantage, like why not take it? And that's basically the idea for it, right? And then as you, yeah, that's basically, yeah, that's basically it, because I mean, there's not really much else to talk about, right? You're just overlaying information that's personal to you and how you can like learn the best. That's basically it. Now, like, okay, the differences between splitting and stacking the bosses. It comes down to like damage efficiency at the cost or gain in freedom of movement. At least I think, because I've kind of done both, but I'm much more familiar with stacked bosses. I think stacked bosses is probably harder than split because it forces everyone to be super close and the tanks to think a little more. Whereas split bosses, you have less people to like be around you and more space to work with. But the trade-off is that you'll lose a lot of cleave and AoE damage from split bosses, and I think the freedom of movement may or may not give people like kind of bad habits. Like, it really depends on the person. Like in my group where we did stacked bosses, people were sort of like trained with like positional discipline like really quickly, and no one like literally like ever wanted to move, which made passing like the mechanic much easier because people really respected other people's movements by doing things like straight up just dropping GCDs to let people go past and whatnot. Now if you want to like stack bosses, I don't know where am I at the VOD? Right at the start. So there's just, you know, just chakrams go out. I think like right at this point, yeah, they provoke each other's bosses to get them like closer to the middle as the optical sight goes off, right? So like the two ways you can stack it is either the tanks cross or they provoke, like just in that situation. If the tanks get Nisi, the crossing can be annoying. And what I mean by crossing is, let's say let me go back a little. it's not good. Wait, where am I? What? Wait, did I click forward? That's really scuffed. Oh, okay. Oh, do I not have it? Oh. Okay, I guess I could just use this. So let's say the bosses are. Well, the bosses. Well, okay, we'll just keep this boss here and like the other boss here box it like that or something like, right? So, so if they provoke, right? Let's say the bosses are culling back middle right now after chakrams, and well after the after chakrams and also after like the optical sites have been baited on the side by 8 people, right? So it would provoke like the bosses, and the bosses would run to the other tank as they're coming back. The other way is for the tanks to cross, and by that I mean like one tank will go across to here while the other tank will run like will take this side like that. Like, so that's another like priority system where like one tank will go through closer to the south of the arena from the middle, and then one tank goes slightly north. So like this situation would be like one slightly north, one slightly south. But obviously if the tanks get Nisi, the crossing can be a little annoying, but yeah, I think provoking is just easier. But I think if you use the provoke there, and like maybe somebody messes up something in the future, you're gonna have to like properly like rebuild aggro just by like GCDs and whatnot, instead of just like provoking outright. So, but I think provoke's just a lot safer. It's just less chance of running into each other, less movement and whatnot, so it's a lot easier. The main consideration for stacking bosses, I think, for our strat is just for me as a Dragoon, but crossing them, like, it doesn't really affect it. Crossing or provoking, that's just like tank's consistency, right? Yeah, it's, I mean, stacking bosses for damage is basically just easier for me to not only cleave but also double dot. But I think even if it's just, you know, split bosses, it doesn't really matter, because I think, again, the DPS check isn't really a problem in this phase. So yeah, I think it's just fine either way. If anything, the other strat's probably easier. So I think the way we did it is just that the warrior just took Brute Justice at the start, and then Paladin took Cruise Chaser, and then they would get like a hidden to get aggro, and then pull them together, where the Paladin would pull left, and then the warrior would pull right, and then the bosses stack, and then they return to their like original position. Like, no, oh god, I clicked the wrong thing. Let me see if I can get a better shot of it. Oh, that's not good. Okay, here we go. I don't know if this is actually... Okay, so see, like the Paladin ran left, and then the warrior ran right, and then before Nisi spawns, they switch spots again, like that. And then the bosses are perfectly stacked. So yeah, they do that first, and then as we're coming back after chakrams, they provoke each other's bosses, and then to dodge Spin Crusher, like that, the other tank doesn't have to worry, right? And then just the tank on like the Cruise Chaser just has to dodge a little bit down. Basically it's for tank movement mostly, for like the start of the fight at least, right? EC. Yeah, just make sure you do like DPS move to tanks and healers rather than tanks and healers move to DPS, for this one at least. Which I think basically just carries on to the rest of it. Like, you'd rather just have your tank stand still, and then your healers like heal and do what they gotta do with their cast, and the DPS just adjust. It's much easier that way. So much easier. Maybe we'll talk about like the chakrams. Oh yeah, as the Nisi spawns, make sure you have shields. If you put up shields, because like you cast a photon, right, and the photon drops everybody to 1 HP. if you have shields before 1 HP, the shields will still stay. So you don't have to worry about like having perfectly timed, so that the moment everybody drops to 1 HP, you put shields up. Like you can put shields up before the 1 HP mechanics, so like just like a sucker will do, like literally just a sucker. I guess I don't actually know without silent buffs. Yeah, okay, so yeah, it's just the idea of, the photon doesn't happen here yet, but just for the future to think about. So for the baits over there, I know for the, like as you're standing around the cog, you run out when the chakrams spawn, but I think it's actually easier to just listen for the chakrams to spawn rather than like see them spawn. Because it's like a little like weird buzz, like saw sound that comes out. And then as the chakram goes through, you start moving into the middle because you've already baited the optical site. But as you can see in the what do you call it, the enemy list, the chakrams going off also has a cast bar. So I think like right there as the cast bar ends, you can start moving in now before the chakrams even go off. But I actually haven't tested on that timing too much, and it doesn't really matter for me anyway, so I haven't really tried that. So here's the photon, right? And the shields are important because the Nisis tick. So if people are put into 1 HP and there is no shields, people will just die because everybody gets dropped to 1 HP, and then people tick the Nisi damage, and then everybody will just die, or like at least one person will die or something. Something to really consider here is make sure people are like in, especially if the like a shield or something is late. It's just a good practice to stay in because like healing, like AoE healing shields in this game is based off of like proximity around the healer. So if a healer, hold on, let me pull up that paint. Okay, so like this is the arena, right? And you have like the healer in the middle, like that. And then you have, you know, 1 DPS here, 1 DPS here, 1 DPS here, and then 1 DPS here. Like, hold on. I'm just going to use the pen. Okay, so if we're looking at this and the healer uses a shield, right? Let's just say this person is closer, and then this is second closest, this is third, and this is fourth, right? Let's just say it's just something like that. I think that was actually closer, or whatever. So if the healer uses like shields on people, the person closest is going to get it first, then the second, then the third, then the fourth. Now the time in between isn't very long if it's just a few people, but if it's 8 people, it's going to heal yourself, and then that person, and then the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and then the 7th. And the time between it heals you and the 7th person can be quite a long time. I think it can be like a second apart, or like something ridiculous. Or it could even be like longer than that, right? I don't really know. But yeah, it's something really important to keep in mind, because if you are too far away from the middle, and like for example, like if you like a, what do you call it? Like you're playing with them like a ninja, and they have like shade shift, or like they shield themselves or something, and then you are like really far off. Because I'm pretty sure I actually had this happen where I was really far away to hit a boss during like split boss mechanic, or like a split boss strategy, I should say. You know, like if people are like are shielded and everything, and then I'm a slightly bit off, and I get like a tick really late because I'm like too far apart, and the people who are already like got it earlier or something, they're fine because they shielded themselves or something like that. I would like die to the tick because I was too far out. So I don't know, it's pretty weird. I don't think that's, yeah. first an easy pass like this, we pass off the photon, which is the tail that we use. So spin crusher here. This is a lot easier with split bosses because one of the bosses is going to be like here, and then you can just bait it out of the arena rather than have it like bait like this, and people have to like actually like think about it and dodge it. Let me get like a better like, so you can see it go off there. So the way you can actually dodge this mechanic, for me at least, the tell that I use is that as long as I stand like on the side of the boss, which the tell for that is the little arrow that they added. That's actually a really good tell for where you can stand. I know you can stand a little bit further like this, but I mean there's no real reason to, right? Because you can just stand here, because the other melee can easily have like all this space to hit the flank positional, so it doesn't really matter to them. The safe spot for me is always just around here. I know the warrior can dodge the spin crusher by standing like somewhere like here. So I guess like the, like what do you call it? Like the place where the AoE comes out is like this or something. So they can get away with standing like in the hitbox in like a really weird place to dodge it. So because it gives me room as well, right? So I mean they got it down consistently and we never had any trouble with it. So yep, that's just what it is. Maybe I can, yeah, this is what I mean by like micro movement optimization for just for safety purposes, right? It's like so like I mean look at that, like look at where like the warrior is, and they're like they dodge the spin crush from there, like what the hell, right? Yeah, it is what it is. So like from here, right, I see the monk, like you always have to be like on your toes, especially where I'm at here, because I'm just like surrounded by people. I need to look at who has the lightning. So as I see that it's the monk, I'm gonna have to move a little bit, and it's only if the monk has it that I do this. I move a little bit after the spin crusher goes off, because I know like you have to bait the lightning after spin crusher. So I let the monk go through. It just gives them a lot of room, right? They can sort of like go into the boss and whatever, and you know, like why have them do that when I can just like open up the space for them. The red mage knows what's going on, so they give me the space. And then as I'm moving in, I move closer to this side because the lightning's going off like that. If I stand too close or they stand too close, like it just adds like a layer of inconsistency there, so there's no need to do that. And then I come back, let them go through, go back in. That's what I mean by like micro movement optimization. Just weird little things that you can't really just see, or like people just don't really talk about, and you have to figure out on your own. But that's one example of doing it. Yeah, for enumerations, we just did like we just split. Wait, hold on, where is it? Yeah, so obviously the 2 of the 4 DPS always gets it. We always just did the like the melees and the healers are always in the same enumeration. Like we have me as like D1 melee on left, and then a monk is D2 melee on right. We have 1 healer on left, 1 healer on right, and then depending on which DPS gets it, it's always the ranged that will do the baiting, or sorry, like the adjustment, the swap. Because like if I'm, oh no, that's blue's not a good color for this. So if I'm like here, and then the other melee is like here, and then we have a healer here, a healer here, and then we have a ranged here and a ranged here. Like how do we swap, right? Like there's that's like a really weird to swap like that. So we just have like a priority where like the healers don't have to move, we don't have to move, and then if the ranged have to move, we just do the caster takes the inner place to move, and then the ranged loops the outer circle, if that makes sense, because they can do the more movement because they don't have anything to cast and whatnot. And we also made some like micro adjustments here where I go slightly closer to the boss depending on like this one, the boss has to go up, right? But the other boss is still like here. I go a little bit further in to let the red mage get like a melee combo in. It's just one of those things that he brought it up, so it's like, yeah, okay, fair enough. So we just did that. So go a little bit further in, just in case. So the next Nisi pass is after enumerations, but after the mines for our strat. So don't go in now because the tank's gonna bait the mines. I mean, look at that safe spot for the enumerations. Like, what the hell is that? I mean, it's not tiny, right? But like the difficulty is the fact that it's all modular and people can bait like slightly off or like be in slightly different positions, and that can like throw it all off. So I'm standing like right on that like little like right on the right side of this like weird line. It's basically my tail. Because I bait enumerations here like that, right? Like imagine if it keeps standing still and look at that mine. Like if I was a little bit too close or the mine was a little bit baited further, the mine would have been a little bit more forward, and if I was anywhere closer to that, I would have died. So right after that, give the Nisi, because like right now you see like 2 seconds, I think. If make sure you wiggle when you pass the Nisi, or like you don't have to wiggle if like with the person standing there just standing still. You can just walk up to them or whatever, right? But if both you guys are moving, like in this situation, try to wiggle. Like I don't know if I did it here, but yeah, I don't know. But it's just one of those things where you have to make sure the game like registers it properly, because it can be a bit slow. And make sure you pass it quick. Like do whatever it takes to pass it quick, even if you like drop a GCD. Like especially if you're passing it to the tanks here like this, I always pass it super quick, or pass it to whoever you got to, like the partner from the first Nisi pass. Pass it quick because the Nisi will drop. And if you pass it to somebody, like even if you pass it before the Nisi drops, if you stay there for too long, you're gonna pick it up again. So you don't want to have two people have the same Nisi. So you're basically just passing there. Like it could be fine, but it's like, you know, verdict is coming up. So this is like the final decree, I think it's called. Yeah. So I guess so third Nisi pass is after like shield and whatnot, right? The stacks, I mean, I don't think there's anything really I need to just say about the stacks. Like, that's going into strategy, like too much about strategy for this thing. Where like, you know, like one of the DPS gets a lightning, you have to pass it to a tank, the tank then passes it to a healer, and then like the healer passes it to the other healer at the end for the third pass, and the water's like a priority system for like, oh, okay, if one of the people got the warden, like they can't be in the third one, or they can't be in this second one, then like one of the melees has to rotate to the second water and bait it, and not bait it, to like just stack for it as well to get 3 people in or whatever. Like that's going to be very dependent on your group as well. So I guess I kind of went into like strategy about like the enumerations and whatnot, but I don't know, I feel like that's just like extra comments that it's kind of more important than something like this. Limit cut for the shield, so Cruise Chaser goes invulnerable during here, so like you don't have to like hit Cruise Chaser. I think it's better if you just like hold a GCD out. I think that's kind of what I did here. Actually no, I didn't. I hit the thing for fucking 0 damage like an idiot. Holy shit, I didn't even notice. Oh my god. Okay, so we don't talk about that, but yeah, it's better to just hold a GCD here and wait for it to spawn, click on it, tab target it, do what you gotta do, and just like hit it with all you've got, because I mean the health isn't very high, but you know, you might as well burst it down quick enough. It's not really that big of a deal. I think we actually take it a bit slowly because everybody's not really saving stuff for it, we're just focusing stuff on the boss, but I think our dancer is mainly just like bursting it with like fan dances and whatnot. So yeah. After the limit cut shield, that's when you do the third pass. Now the third pass, I guess it's something to talk about, because that's the first part where like RNG is really like introduced into this phase. So there's 2 ways that can happen with RNG, right? Because like obviously there's the RNG that you have to figure out, like, okay, so like my final decree or whatever is this color and I need to get this color, and like that's like, you know, just the bare bones of the mechanics. But the other part is from the start of the phase, it's either the tanks and the healers that will get the initial Nisi or the DPS. And depending on who gets what first, the head markers above the people will be different at the third. So if the tanks get it first, right, and then you take it off them and the tanks get it back, then the tanks will have to, like the tanks and healers will have it like here or whatever, or like vice versa, depending on, like, you know, which one spawns first and who. And you have to do the mechanic like slightly differently to figure it out. So basically the way you do it is at the start you basically just check if you have a head marker for Nisi or not, as in a head marker as in like if you have like, so like the tank right here has a head marker, right? It's got like a thing above their head like that, like the actual Nisi color one off they can like visibly see. After you see whether you have a head marker or not, if you have a color above your head, you will have to match it with the person that has it on the party list. So like I guess it's actually easier if you like manage your like party list like this or whatever, and then you have, like, as a DPS I'll always be going to a tank or a healer. There's no way I'm going to another DPS. So on this party list, it's literally just looking at like the tanks to the healers. So it's basically just looking at what they have on the like debuffs like this. So it's basically just those four, and I don't have to worry about any of this, right? And it's the, so like as you can see with my one, it's got like the two like exclamation marks. It's going to be the same, right? You basically just check who has the two exclamation mark for the color that you have above your head, and you go to them. But if you don't have a color, then instead of looking at what head marker you have to look at your own what do you call it, like the final decree color on your debuffs thing, and then walk to the person that has the head marker for that color. So if I'm green right now, I'll have to walk to the person with the green head marker. Whereas if I was the person with the green head marker, I'm gonna have to look for who has the green the final decree in my party list and go to them. That's basically the extent of RNG and figuring out that mechanic. But the thing about the mechanic is you actually have a bit of time to do it. Let me go back. Yeah, so final decree happens like here, right? Oh, I guess it happens earlier than that, right? But like even like I skipped a little bit ahead. Like look at all this time. Look at all this time I'm hitting the shield and whatnot. Like that's a long ass time to figure out what the hell is going on. So I think like basically the way you do it is that as you see it, figure out what orientation and what you need to do, and then by the time you finish killing the limit cut shield and the flare throwers baited to kill the thing, you basically already know who you're going to go to afterwards. Just make sure you kill the shield first before you move, and the way that we did it is that we had the melees move first and then the ranged. And again, we just did like the static positions. I think the way we do it is just like tanks, healer 1, healer 2, and then tank. And that just keeps it like super consistent. The melees move first because they've got, you know, they're quite quick. Like we're quick to do that, and we're like right up there. So we can do it really fast, and then we basically just stay on the person for a little bit, and then the ranged go, and then we like split off to do our own things, like the third water and the third lightning. So for this third Nisi pass right here, as I said that we're doing like the tank, healer, tank, or like just some variation, or like the healers can go slightly like this and create like, you know, what's that, like a rhombus I think it's called, right? That makes it a little bit easier, I guess, to pass through the healers or whatnot. But this either like static roll positions or static Nisi positions. So it's either like we did static roll, right? Because like it's always tank, always healer, always tank. Whereas some people can do like a certain color, and a color. and so like the tanks and healers will always like change, or like the DPS, like whatever strat you're doing will always be different, but the colors will always be the same. I think static role positions allow tanks and healers, or like the DPS, to turn off their brain. While static Nisi requires all 8 to be like thinking and looking at the debuffs and looking at Nisi. So I think static role positions is much easier to handle, and yeah, the best window to pass an EC is after the shield dies. And again, you should know how to who to pass or pick up Nisi from by the time the shield dies. What's going on? Okay. The rest of it is just trial and error, right? This one is make sure you don't walk into the person and pick up this the thing again. Like, you know, I've got a timer, or sorry, they should have a timer because I picked it up from them. So there's gonna drop like here. Yep, there we go. They dropped it. Just make sure you don't walk in. Like there is like, you know, the off chance, right? I guess, you know, 25% chance, because there's 4 colors. There's 25% chance that if you accidentally pass it to them, they'll still be fine because they could get the correct one, right? But it's like, you know, they're probably gonna have something different, and I think, okay, I can't actually see. This is actually really, because the monitor I'm recording on is really far away. Okay, I think that the tank actually has the right one. So in this, you know, we won the 25% gamble, but it's like if we accidentally passed here, they should still be fine. But if they had something else, which is like the other 75% chance, you'd wipe at gavel. So yeah, just yeah. I think it's actually better if I actually went down to the stack, but I think the tank volunteered to do it, and like they sometimes actually get low. I think it's actually easier for a paladin to do it if there's like a gunbreaker or something. Because actually we ran into that thing where we had like a sub for a gunbreaker, and they came down to stack the thing, and it's like, whoa, they take a lot of fucking like auto damage and whatever there. So I think it's better for me to just go down there instead. So this is just, we always line up like we call it like ABOY, because that's just like the easiest way people can do it without learning all the weird jargon. So yeah, A, B, O, Y, we understand the colors and whatnot, and based on what you're used to, it's like, I think we actually always just did the off tank with BJ, always goes to like the static position, like this, right? Like so, like let's just say like these are like the spots. So there's one here, there's one here, there's one here, there's one here, behind the pillar. We always just have, you know, the off tank go to where he needs to do. The healers follow. The healers just go to their static spots, or not static spots. They go to where their final decree needs to go to, regardless of if they have a head marker or not. And then if the DPS, whoever has a head marker, we just have to do the thinking of like who to go to for the thing. Well, actually no, sorry. If it's that way, the healers and the tanks have to do the thinking. For that one, we just simply match up the color of what we need to go to. So yeah, that's one way to handle it. And then the tank that's pulling CC, they basically move at last second, and there's always going to be a slot open where there's only one person. So this is already 2, like for example, right? This is 2, this is 2, and this is 2, and then this is, for example, like if it's just me here, right? The other tank will see it, and then they'll immediately know that that's where they're gonna go. And I think that's what happens here. Yep, that's what happens here. So I mean, that's basically it, right? What else is there in this phase? Like, it's literally like photon. Okay, dude, like just tanks. Do we do like Q or 3 or something? I don't know what the hell. Yeah, just tanks and healers. Just, I mean, just pre-planned mitigation and healing plan. It's just, you know, just execute what you've learned. Really easy. Super jump. I mean, there's different ways you can do it. We just did it like this, and we have like the caster bait it out like that, so we can hit the 2 bosses consistently during this and burst them both down. And then just whirlwind, and then another whirlwind, and then Jeez, yeah. Like we played so safe and we just still just I don't know what the hell. Okay. Alex Prime. Phase 3. This phase is actually pretty easy. The only thing you have to think about is wormhole and also like the little points of detail for all the mechanics, I guess, here and there that I will go through. Temporal stasis is first up. Really easy mechanic, like almost like extreme fight difficulty like type of shit, but it's possible to mess it up if some people didn't like get the memo. The strat that we did was let me just play it so it clears up the arena. Okay, so regardless of where the boss spawns, because like the bosses can be like swapped in this position, we always did what do you call it? Get the pen out again. So we did like restraining order, like the long blue tether thing. We always just like do the split of DPS always goes west, tanks and healers always goes east, and it's always going to be that orientation. There's never going to be like 2 DPS or 2 tanks and healers. So we always just did yeah, so like the DPS, one DPS, so they see it, they immediately go to there, and the other one goes to there. The strat for the restraining order is that you do have to look at the bosses for restraining order. That's basically the only, well, and aggravated assault, that's the only 2 that's to think about the bosses. If you basically just have to look at Cruise Chaser, and if you're on Cruise Chaser side for what do you call it, for restraining order, you just have to be closer to them. So our point of reference for this with this waymarker setup is the restraining order person that is not on CC side, so the BJ side, they will stand on the red dot. If you have the restraining order and you're on Cruise Chaser side, you have to stand in front of this marker like that, or like be like on the edge of the marker, because Cruise Chaser is gonna hit 3 people with like the cone AoE, right? The 3 closest, so they'll hit one like this, and they want to hit you. And if you're standing over here, they're gonna pick somebody that's over here. So, and if they do that, and they do that, you know, 1, 2, and then 1 restraining order, and then because it's BJ side, the 2 aggravators, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 5 people dead. So it's just to just make sure that if you're on here, just to go over there. So for the aggravated assaults, like the zap icon, like the Harry Potter, you always go on the brute justice side, and just basically just stand on the red dot as well with the restraining order. It doesn't matter where you stand as long as you stand somewhere over there, because you don't want to be close enough to bait BJ's flare thrower, and you don't want to take damage, because if you stand over here and you take damage, you're gonna die, because you're gonna like inevitably take damage from Cruise Chaser. So it's just, you know, you just go over there. And then that's basically it. Everybody else like gets like 1, 2, 3, 4, so like half the party doesn't have to think. And then we always just did, if you have nothing, you always go to the left. If you have the Christmas tether, as we call it, like the green and red tether, you always go right. It's like something like this, I think, for the dodges. But it doesn't really matter. It basically just the green and red, you have to be close together, but just make sure you're like directly in front of the bosses and behind the bosses, because if you're slightly tilted like here, you're gonna bait the flare thrower like that, because it's quite a wide cone, so that's not going to be good. So make sure you're properly positioned there, and also be close enough to the person in front. I think it's also possible to actually be too close to the bosses, because if you're too close, that might actually mess up like the thing, and like you think you're right in front of the boss, but you're actually slightly to the right, and that's enough to pivot the cone to a different direction. Or if you're CC side and you're too close, you might get hit by the cone, your cone, and then you might get hit by another one, the other one that's going like this way, right? I think that's actually possible, so just be careful with that. That's basically it, right? Just watch it play out. Yeah, so I basically just go to the... Oh yeah, there's a cast bar for the thing. When the cast bar ends, temporal stasis, you can pop. The mechanic basically just solves itself, right? It's just like, what the hell is this mechanic? Like, what am I doing here? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, just burn the boss. Okay, now chastening heat now. This is a tank mechanic. So the reason why I wanted to bring this up is from what I've heard, right, from our tanks, the chastening heat, this one, where okay, so like I don't know if it, okay, I'm gonna really, okay, so there's a blast that like it hits the tank, and then as you can see right here, it shoots like a cone, like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and then 3, right? From what I've seen, apparently the one after inception, because there's like another one of these, right? The one after inception, the chastening heat for the 3 is actually a bit, is like 1.5 seconds slower to go out than this one, even though it's the exact same cast and everything. So if you're timing an invuln for that, keep that in mind. I guess we'll get to there later, but... I think the way we do it is, as long as we get it under 70%, we are like good to go for this. As long as it's under 70, yeah, I mean, yeah, it can still be recoverable, right? Because we actually have to hold a lot of DPS here, depending on like how much DPS we do. So I think like even like at 70 or a bit higher is okay, but as long as you know that you can make up for it later, it will be okay. What else is there? Oh yeah, like I guess I can say, like, you know, the burst here after temporal, and go into more in depth about that in burst management later on. I've talked about, so yeah. So I guess for also with temporal stasis is you can, like, it's one of those things that you can one-shot the mechanic, right? But I really recommend watching like POVs of other people doing it, and then hit pause right as they get a mechanic, and then try to figure out where you need to go in that situation. Like, don't worry about like what they actually need to do, or like what they're doing, because they might be like playing a different role to you, or like doing a completely different strategy. I think this is basically just how you get to one-shot the mechanic, because you get visual practice in without actually doing it like in the fight. So I think when people struggle to do this is when they sort of like isolate the mechanic when studying, and they don't really consider the pacing of the fight and what happens beforehand or what is going on during that time. So even though they might understand how to do the mechanic, when they actually get there, they become lost because they only have solved the mechanic in a vacuum. So this is why watching full POVs and pretending that you're playing with it is better than just looking at a video that isolates a single mechanic. And of course, watching, like, watch those too, but like watch different things as much as you can. But it must be like supplemented with resources that show the bigger picture. So Inception is next. This mechanic being solved is, you know, already really like trivialized. It's not as simple as temporal stasis, but it's still easy once people get the pace of the mechanic. You basically just have to quickly look for where Alexander spawns. It always spawns either north or south. So so right from the get-go right here. So we see that it spawns south. BJ, looking north, right? Looking north, BJ's always left, and Chris Chaser's always right. So, you know, this is inverted obviously because we're looking south, but if you're looking north, BJ's always left, and CC's always right. This is very important because that means that the dodge pattern for post inception, or like well, it's still in inception, but like right after the orbs and crystal baits and whatnot, with the tethers and everything, you get like temporal stasis part 2. All the baits for super jump and everything, like all the spots are the same, like after that mechanic resolves, because the positions are static. So again, look for, like immediately look for whether they spawn, Alexander spawns north or south, and then immediately adjust that as the new true north. You can split out of the middle if you want. There's no real, like, there's not chakrams or anything like that, like, or like optical sites blowing up. It just needs to, like, you just gotta look out for if you have the line, which is the orbs, or you have nothing, which the crystals will spawn on you. So there's no real priority that needs to be in place here for like the crystals and whatnot, because, well, like for both, I guess, for the orbs and the crystals, because everybody gets random stuff. 4 random people get crystal baits, 4 random people get the orbs. And I guess the most important thing here is to get the crystal, solved, like ASAP. So okay, so right here is I have crystal because I've got nothing, right? So you always go south, right? And you're basically just looking to get the crystals. Like, again, like, I'm not going to go into this, like, you know, this, you just watch this from the strategy guide, the cat goes through, whatever. The most important thing here is to make sure you get the 2 crystals at the edge done first. Like, this is not important. The second part you can adjust based on the first 2 pairs. Oh, sorry, the first pair. So as long as these guys get to their, like, ASAP, they figure out their position to, like, leave just enough gap, then the other 2 people can sort of just do whatever, because you can just adjust off of it rather than looking for a specific spot over here. It's a lot easier to look for a specific spot if you're on this side, for, like, if you get there first. But obviously this is random. I could go there right now and they could go out. It's just whoever's there first, just stay there. So the way you look at this one is, you see, like, the red circle here, and you see, like, it goes out and there's, like, a little bump here and there's a little bump like that. Right here where they're standing, there's a little, like, rivet. Like, you see how, like, there's, like, little, like, dots. Maybe, like, it won't show up in the video, but, like, if you go in there, you'll see, like, little, like, dots. It's like nails or something, whatever. On the second one, if you stand there, and the other person stands there as well, like here, you see, like, this is perfect. This is actually perfect. So, like, even if you stand in the wrong spot, like here, like if you stand here, it doesn't really matter. Once you see it, you'll adjust. You'll adjust really, really quickly, and you'll get it right. And basically just kind of have to trust the other person to do the same thing. So everybody has to be on the same page here. The way you make sure you get it down correctly is to, when you see these, like, things, these, like, the edges of your, like, the circle here, make sure it overlaps the red dot, but it doesn't go any further than that, because if they get too close, you'll wipe. So you're looking to just, this one's, like, sees out slightly over the red dot, and this one's slightly over the red dot. That's perfect. And then the other 2 people can adjust based off of your position. Okay, so I think I have an all POV. Yeah, I do. When will it load? Here it is. Orb 8. So for orbs, you basically just, like, I saw that I was tethered to the right one, so you always run to the opposite, because as the you know, the orbs follow you, they get smaller and smaller, and they do less damage. So always just run to the opposite. This one doesn't really matter which one you go to, but the safe spot for this is always on the red dots, again, on the edge of the arena. I mean, it doesn't really have to be the edge of the arena, but, like, you know, close enough on the red dots. And it's the same on the other side, like somewhere here and then somewhere, like, over there. But there's, like, 2 different patterns which the orbs can spawn. So you see how, like, these orbs are slightly, like, closer to the south, and then these are slightly closer to the, well, actually no, that's closer to north, right? That's closer to north, that's closer to south, but we're using Alexander's true north, so that's closer to the south and that's closer to north. The people with the south orbs have to make sure you pull it up slightly further up, otherwise if you go to the safe spot immediately, these orbs are going to go right through the people with the crystals, and that's really, really bad. So yeah, So if the green orbs were like here, I would have to stay here to make sure they go slightly up. And then once I see that they go, they're like, you know, safe, we can start going this way and like kind of like curve them in. It's just what it is. We're just waiting. Yeah, we're starting on the red dot. I think that person's slightly forward. Doesn't really matter because the only thing that you have to really consider here is that as long as the orbs aren't close enough to each other, because if they overlap, they explode, and then it's game over. So as long as they're far apart, I just like to use the red dot as like a personal thing. I think this one's slightly up as well, but it's fine. Sacred soil here. So yeah, again, so because BJ is always left, it's very easy to know which one you have to go to. It's always the same. Just depends on the orientation, right? So yeah, the way our tanks did, you can just look at like what they did there. I think every group maybe does it like slightly differently, maybe, but that's basically just our timing for it. And for this one, okay, this one's a really this one's funny because we actually had a time when our party wasn't close enough to BJ and the tanks took it again, and both the tanks died. So the way you can do this properly is so there's another red dot, right? There's another red dot like here. When the tank takes this one and then the tank takes that one or something, at least one person in the party needs to be either like here, like either in front of the red dot or like very close to in front of the red dot. That's just our tell. Like obviously depends on where like the tanks stand and whatnot, but like that's our tell because based on like what the tanks are doing consistently, as long as we stand in front of the red dot, we'll always be close enough to bait that. So yeah. It's just added safety, right? And it's like, yeah, just hit the true heart for resources. You don't do damage to it, but it's just you get to hit. You know, like I get like an extra eye here. You know, maybe like a warrior gets to build gauge. Red mage builds like the mana stuff. So this is again just like again. You just have to look at where the it's just like new true north, wherever the heart goes, runs off to, that's going to be the new true north, and then you figure out what you have here. It's sort of like temporal stasis again. So like the tanks are always going to the left of the heart because like the heart's like here. That's where Alex is going to spawn and he's going to do a sacrament, which is just an AoE through the middle like this and an AoE like that and that. So like this is not safe, this is not safe, this is not safe, and this is not safe. So it's all like once you see that, it's always like a tank and then a healer or a DPS gets like the restraining order. So the tank will be like here, and then the restraining order will go through, and then one of the healers or the DPS will be like over here, right? And yeah, so that one's the important one, right? And then you have like the DPS with the stack. I'm pretty sure only the DPS gets it. The shared sentence, the person with the shared sentence, which I think is this one. I can't see it. It's getting fucking monitored so fucking far away, but I'm pretty sure it's that one. It's the one, the blue one with the people in it. You stick with the tanks for that one, and like the aggravated assault and everything else just goes on the other side. So it's like it's one of those things where it's just like you just create like a thing for yourself that works for you. Like as a DPS, right? Like I think DPS basically have the most to think about for this because you're the only person that has to either go think about going left or right. Everybody else is like the tanks are always here, the healers are always here. Again, it's just like you just have to quickly come up with a system. For me, like it's not even really a system. It's just like the only thing that makes you go left is shared sentence. Like I can very quickly see that it's not shared sentence, and I'll just immediately walk to the other side. Like it's just one of those things that you just, you know, just very quickly figure out. And the person with like the DPS with the restraining order on the other side of the tanks, we'll have to do the 3rd CC bait. So yeah, this is this Sacrament. So we all, because the bosses are static, we always just get the whole party to just stack on 3. And then one of the tank, our off tank for the, like our paladin here, takes that to bait the super jump. That would jump across the arena and like do like a blast like that. And then we have a healer north, healer south, and then whoever the restraining order DPS is, go west. And then we have a perfect 1, 2, 3. Party's safe from the cleaves, the party's safe from the thing. It's just like, you know, those are like the little points that I wanted to bring up, because it's like you have to be close. Like basically you stand on like this little wheel, and then you stand directly on 3, and this person goes to the edge of the arena above the red, like in front of the red dot, and that's basically mechanic solved. What else is there to talk about actually? I'm gonna go through my notes because I had like a little like list of stuff that I wanted to talk about in this, so I don't forget. Is it 3? Yep. Yep. Okay. Alright, oh, that's basically it. That's literally it. That's everything that I've got, other than going into wormhole. Okay, so next up is wormhole after you burst the boss again. A lot of people talk about the difficulty of this mechanic, but I think the difficulty is no longer like really that present with like an easy strat like Onyxia, as well as the fact that like a simulator exists for it. So from, I think, like from the start of Prog to the first time we cleared, we saw wormhole like 65 times, and from studying it a lot and trying to like reduce lines of thought, I have yet to mess it up. Well, yet to mess it up. I messed it up during like re-clears, but during the time that we actually like it really mattered, like for Prog, I did not mess it up even once, just because I properly researched the mechanic and found like my own personal way of how to think of wormhole as we got there. So, but I also came like kind of close a few times, like just getting arm's length out in time before I got hit by like a cruise chaser cone, but that's basically about it. I will go through how I managed to do that, as well as go in depth with what things to look out for. I actually went into the simulator before I even saw what I was meant to be doing. I basically just went in and looked at what the bots did and just copied their movement once I saw all the number variations. So I think, like Limit Cut, some of the difficulty comes from knowing where to go at the very start. And so when you get like your number, right? But I think this way of handling numbers is interesting, because instead of like 1, 2, 5, 6 or whatever, it's all odds to the left and all evens to the right. So the difficulty is moved slightly forward to where exactly on that side you have to go. I guess I'll pull up a video of it. Okay. Put that first one in. Wormhole formation. Always look north here, so that's fine. Okay, let me pull up. So yeah, I guess this will be the most strategy guide part, because there's not really much else I can. So I guess I should color code it. No, it doesn't really matter. I guess it's fine. Okay, so it would always be like the odds on the left, then like the evens. Fuck, Jesus, okay. And the evens on the right. So because of this, I think it's like the initial split here is actually a bit easier to do. So like the difficulties move slightly forward compared to limit cut, because looking at which side you have to go becomes a little bit easier, because it's all odds and all evens, so it's always the same colors. But the difficulty moves to where exactly on that side you have to go, rather than the side initially. So right from the get-go, to get to the correct place initially down consistently, what you can do is you jump at the start. I think everybody else does this. Pretty sure everybody else does this. In the video, you see people just jumping in person to let more people jump. It's basically like you don't want to be too far out. Let me go back. Okay, so you don't want to be too far out here, because, like, for example, if this was a limit cut, right? A lot of people can like stand around and then like walk back in. I think you can kind of do that for this, but the problem is you don't want to bait the chakrams wrong, because, for example, you got like the chakrams on the thing, and if somebody's off, you can really like do some crazy shit with the chakrams and possibly kill somebody. But I don't know, like, I think it's like, it's not really the north one. The north one's not really the problem. It's like the ones on the side. If you bait it wrong, you can probably snipe somebody that's meant to be on the sides or whatever. But I don't know, it's better to just stay in the middle. And plus, like, you don't really need to look at the exact number that you have immediately. So the way I do it is, as you jump, the moment you see your color, you start walking to your safe spot. I misread it here, but yeah, it's basically you get the point, right? It's the moment you see like blue, you go left. If you see red, you go right. And as you're walking there, you figure out the number, and then you go to the correct spot from that point on. So this is kind of like important, because like the last thing you want to do is to be like stuck in the middle, right, for a second, and then just freezing up and then blanking out for a mechanic at like 8.5-ish minutes in, right? So I guess it is possible for people to get like colors confused and whatnot, but as long as you understand, just look at blue, look at red, blue left, red right. Just keep like, maybe you can like chant it or something, just like 1, 2, 5, 6 left, and basically just get it down nice and easy like that. And then like based on where you go with the like afterwards, yeah, based on like where you are afterwards, like after you've thought of the side, I thought of like a system of like top, mid, and bot, although it isn't really top, mid, and bot. So like maybe it's easier with drawing in paint. So if this is like the arena, let's have red. Okay, so you have like the red dots. Like we'll just use like the west and east one. So these are like the red dots of the arena, right? Like those ones. I guess I'll just draw these as well. It's north, south, and then you've got this intercardinal one. These red dots basically like do half the mechanics for you, like actually. Okay. So when you get the split down, you basically, so let's just do 1, 3, 5, 7, and then 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay. So the idea is, I think of it as like the top, mid, and bot, but it isn't like exactly like that. So like if it's top, mid, and bot, what it really means is that like 1 is here, and then the middle is just here with 5 and 7, and then bot is 3. Like, you know, it's not exactly precise. It's like top is here, mid is here, and then bot is here. It's mid slightly up because you want to bait the chakram, because the chakram is going to go through like this. So you're looking to dodge it first and then go to where you actually need to go, because if you're here you're going to get killed by the chakram and get knocked back. So this is top, mid, and bot for this side, and then for the other it's it's a bit closer. I'm just not drawing on the red dot. You should be on the red dot at the edge of the arena. So this is sort of just like a system that you can like think of, but what I did here is I overlaid like a thing where it's like a box, and then I have like the numbers in each one. So then I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And then as I see what number I have, I look over like at my overlay, and then basically just like it's like top, mid, or like, you know, just like this. Well, I mean this would be top as well, but like this is basically what I did. And then as I saw the number, I would just quickly look over at my overlay, and then I'll just like, okay, top, mid, bot. But like over time, right, you do this is basically just for like the start of the mechanic. Like when I like first got there, to make sure I didn't mess it up for the first few times I did it, and then as you get more and more familiar with the mechanic, obviously, like Limit, you can just stop using this stuff, or like I just kept it up there just as like a safety measure. But yeah, basically all the times after you basically get it down, you don't really need to look at it anymore, and that's what I mean by you have something like this just in case, and then you can get rid of it and then create a new one for the next prog point that you are up to. So again, like limit cut, I guess it's like it's only like the first number that requires most thought, and then the rest of the mechanic is quite simple, I think. Like, but there are some stuff that I see like other people messing up that I would like to talk about, because it isn't like too much thought to like circumvent these problems. So once you know it, you won't really mess it up. I think for people that like find it difficult to understand that there are like basically 8 different variants of what you have to do for this strat. Well, I guess there's a bit more, because like 3 and 4 can, you know, it's RNG whether you'll bait BJ or not, but there's only like, you know, a few different variations that are of the strategy, and maybe for some people trying to get all of them in their head and trying to remember all the different things would be difficult. But I think if you have trouble with that, what you can do is no matter what the orientation of the mechanic is, always mirror the other side regardless of what you have, right? So if you have like 1, right, if you have 1 and but 2 is baiting the APOC ray from BJ, like if BJ spawned here, that would super jump to 3 and then look at 2 because 2 is the furthest away, and then do like that, oh god, and do like the APOC ray, right? You can just stay there like 2 is and pretend that you're baiting the APOC ray as well, just to remain consistent. So basically, you basically only have to remember how like the odd side does it, because you want to be quick on the odd side because you're baiting the cone first, and then the corresponding even number is going to bait the dash. So although you're basically doing the same thing, odd's got to be a little bit faster, so the cone baits proper. So you basically just have to remember like how one side does it, and then you just mirror it on the other side. I don't think I did this, but I guess for people, like if you find it kind of difficult to get an understanding on how like each different number does it, then maybe you can like mirror both sides regardless of what they have. So yeah, I think the only RNG again like of this mechanic is like where BJ and CC will spawn and the location of the puddles that you'll need to soak. So like BJ and CC, like they can spawn like this, right? Well, they're technically more down, but like, so they spawn like this, or they can spawn the other way around where BJ's on the left and CC's on the right. And then the other one is the puddles. So you have like a puddle like here. Like this isn't, oh, I guess I can move it up. I think this is kind of accurate of what it looks like. The size of it, at least. So it can be sort of like this. So it's either this orientation, or I'll just put it in a different color. Or this orientation. It basically only spawns between like the black ones here or the green ones. And the RNG in this doesn't really matter, I think, because regardless of like it doesn't really add difficulty to it unless you maybe like 5 or something, or 6, or mostly 5 because you're on the odd side. So you got to be doing the cone first. I guess I'll go through that like one by one, like what each number kind of does to quickly get it down. So with that in mind, number 1 and 2, you basically just run to the red dot. Because I'll change the color for this, like purple or something. Yeah. Basically just run to the red dot all the way, like on the red dot, all the way to the edge of the arena. And if you are north of the red dot, like you're slightly above, and you happen to be baiting Apoc Ray from 4, right? Let's say like we're doing the BJ spawn left. Bridge Justice is going to be here on 4, because 4 is the furthest person. So if you're standing on the dot, the Apoc Ray is going to be like properly, but like this is not a good drawing. This is not a good drawing, but like the Apoc Ray is going to be pointed here. But if you're slightly north, you know, it's going to be pointed slightly to the right, and that's actually enough to possibly kill 2, because Apoc Ray is not exactly like a normal cone like that. It's like wide, and because it's so wide, just tilting it slightly will, you know, it'll be like that, and you'll kill 2. So you gotta make sure it's on there. You know, vice versa, you shouldn't be too far south as well, but you wouldn't really be far south during this situation, because when this puddle spawns, like it either spawns here or here, right? But once you see the variation, you'll know that okay, like the puddle is actually just outside of this red dot range, so you'll know that okay, it's better to just stand on the red dot because I'll be in the puddle. It's just kind of like self-explanatory at that point. Make sure you look out of the arena because the cone's going to come out, and just stay there. So when you like there's, oh, I guess there's 2 reasons for you to stay there. So if you stay right here, right, and you wait for the cone to go out, it's better to stay there because like the dash also has to go through to 2, right? And if you, I mean, you shouldn't really be moving in a way where the dash will hit you, but it is, I guess it is possible, so that's one reason to just stay still. The other reason for it is to bait Apoc Ray. So this is again, this is based off like the RNG thing and the whole thing about like mirroring both sides of the arena. Like whether you're baiting BJ or not, it doesn't matter. Just stay still because it's going to be the same on both sides and the timing is going to be the exact same. And you don't have to worry about like if you get 1 and you get 2, you get like depending on if it's BJ or CC on like which side, you have to like get like you have to think so much more and everything. Like you don't have to do that. You can just copy the same thing on both sides and you'll be fine. So if BJ's over here, right, and then you have to wait long enough for Apoc Ray to actually go out, because if you bait the cone immediately, right, and then you immediately like run over here, or you run down or start moving like weirdly, the cone's gonna from BJ's gonna snapshot and you can like kill people. So definitely something to remember to stay still. So the tell that I use for instead of like waiting to see the Apoc Ray to go out, the tell I use for it is waiting for the big puddles to turn smaller, right? Because the puddles, like these puddles, like the first one is like this big, the second one is like this big, and then like the third one's even smaller, right? So the moment the big one turns a little bit smaller, like the big ones always, like the size of it always goes to the edge of the arena. The one, the middle size, always leaves like a little bit of room. Like remember, like in Limit Cut, where there's the like the outer ring and like the inner ring. Like it basically leaves you about the same room as like the outer ring, where there's just like a little bit of like, it's like a little like corridor that you can like run down, if that makes sense. So it's going to be like this basically, where you can run through, whereas the big one goes all the way to the edge of the arena. So the moment you see a person soak one of the puddles, like this puddle, which would be 5, they would soak the puddle, and then the moment it's soaked, it turns smaller like this, and then that's your cue to go down, because and plus it's a lot safer that way, because that happens after Apoc Ray goes out. So if you start moving the moment the puddle goes smaller, you're not at risk of like snapshotting the Apoc Ray incorrectly, because it would have already gone off for a bit. And you basically do that for 2 as well, and just be aware that the puddles can spawn in these 2 different variations, so it's not always going to be next to you, so you have to like look down a little bit if it's not the one that's right next to you. I guess that's it, right? Oh yeah, right, I guess I should talk about the knockback prevention timings. It's not as important for the even numbers again, because you can use it as you see Cruise Chaser spawn on the odd numbers, but I don't recommend that for this mechanic, because you're not close to the odd number, whereas in Limit Cut you're always close to the person that you're baiting it from. Like this, you're literally baiting you're on the opposite sides of the arena, right? Like if you're 1 here, you're gonna be baiting the cone, and then 2's all the way on the other side of the arena, whereas Limit Cut you're like right next to it or something. So, and because of you're on the other side of the arena, there's a lot of mechanics that's going on. It's kind of like flashy here and there, but it's not too bad. But it is possible to not be able to see, especially if you're 3 and 4. If you're 3 and 4, and you have Brute Justice, because of how big his boss model is, it's gonna either block your field of view, or it's gonna block their field of view. So it's kind of it's definitely not good to wait for it and just come up with your own timing. Like this one is where you just kind of have to just use it at the same time on both sides just to get it down consistently. For 1 and 2, so as you're running out to your spot, right, you're waiting for the chakrams to go off. You can technically wait for the chakrams to go off first and then use knockback prevention, but I think that's a little bit tight, especially if you have high ping. So it's just something that you just go by feel. I don't know if this video... So like, you got your number, right? So you see the chakram spawn. So as you walk here, pop it now. Like there's a little bit of like guesswork and like, what do you call it? Like going by feel, but I'll pop it like now for 1 and 2. And then the chakrams go off, right? And then, because like CC's always like, look at that, like that's kind of tight timing. So it's always good to just quickly get that, just use that first, and just use it by feel. I think that one might be the most difficult of the knockback prevention timings, because all the other ones you can use like a tell for, but it's not like it's that hard, so it's not that bad. Again, just make sure to face out, and the odd numbers you'll need knockback prevention for. But if you somehow like misclick it, or you fat finger it earlier on, the only way you can really salvage it is if you like stand like here and then know the knockback distance of the cone and then get knocked back to the edge of the arena. But that's kind of sketch, so I think you can probably salvage it. If you're even numbers, if you don't have knockback prevention, you gotta focus up, because the way you don't get knocked back is to look directly at Cruise Chaser, which I think it might actually be easier to do at a long distance. Maybe not, I don't know. But because like you just look at that general direction. I think I actually did that once, where like I messed it up and I just looked at Cruise Chaser and I just didn't get knocked back. I was just like, okay, well, it is what it is. So you gotta like face the odd number, but again, if it's like, if you do have it or whatever, and it's easier to like mirror both sides, even if you're even number, you can just like stand on the edge of the arena and look out, and just pretend that you're baiting the cone, and that would probably help with consistency. I guess also when you after you wait for the puddle to go to blow up, so you gotta like rotate to like the cardinal spot, right? Like this red dot, just to like let like 5 and everybody else like do their thing by like bait, because other people have to come up to bait as well. Just make sure you run along the edge of the arena to go there, where like when like the spot opens up. Because if you run like if it's this one, right, and it goes a little bit smaller like that, some people might just like do some weird shit, you know, they start walking here, like, oh, okay, I'll start walking here. You're gonna get hit by APOC, right? So don't do that. Just always walk along the edge of the arena. Okay, I guess that's it. I guess I'll talk about 3 and 4. So 3 and 4 I think is probably the hardest job, but not by much. Oh shit, I didn't talk about the 1-2, the puddle soak. So you're basically just soaking the third puddle. So basically just after that, so you go smaller here, that's the second puddle, and then you'll go smaller again, and then the third one is the one that you'll soak. Okay. Right. Oh god, I deleted one of the... It's fine. Here's what it is. Okay, good. So 3 and 4, you run bot, as I call it, right? You run to the bottom one. But instead of going all the way to the edge of the arena, you can go a little bit forward of the red dot. So I don't know if I actually have a VOD of it. I've got 6 here, right? Oh wait, no, I think I do. Hold on. I think in my first clear, I think I got 3 or 4. One of those numbers. Why does it not open? There we go. 841. Okay. Yeah, so I got 3. So this is what I mean by going bot. You just go down to the red dot. So I'm not baiting brute justice here. So I'm not doing the thing where I go like all the way to the other part of the red dot, because I mean, again, like it's only like for me, I find like the numbers going to the correct side and the correct spot harder than the actual like rest of the mechanic. But again, if people find difficulty with getting both sides down consistent, then you just mirror on both sides. So what I mean by going a little bit forward of the red dot, so like as you can see, that's one. You see them like all the way on the edge of the arena on the red dot, right? These guys are on the edge of the arena as well, and I'm on the edge of the arena, right? So instead of going on to the edge of the arena, you can go like here. So like if this is like the red dot, because this, I think this is probably easier to look at because I've got a number that like sort of obscures your view of the red dot. So let's just take this red dot and pretend it's this one. So you can, standing on the edge of the arena will be like this. Instead, you would stand like here. And what that means is like if you're the person baiting brute justice, right? Because brute justice is right here and they're gonna like super jump to the furthest person. And since if brute justice was over here, I'd be the furthest person. And so the super jump itself doesn't really matter to you. You don't like knockback prevention or anything like that. If it just hits you, it's fine. But if somebody else like comes in, they're gonna get like yeeted out of the arena. So that's their problem. So if it comes to you, what's gonna happen is that it's gonna jump. It's gonna AoE, and then it's gonna face backwards because the person. So in this situation, it'll be 2. If brute justice jumped to this one, the furthest person will be 1, right? And it'll retarget whoever's the furthest person from that location, and then cast the APOC ray, just like in BJCC. So, and the reason why you go a little bit back is if brute justice jumps on you and you just stay still, and it turns back to the APOC ray, you will die. Basically, the only like the 2 ways that you can do it is you either go to the edge, like a little bit forward of the red dot, let brute justice jump to you, and then as you see like he jumped to you, you walk backwards to the edge of the arena, and then the APOC ray, instead of baited from like this, it will be baited a little bit forward, but that's good enough. Like that's enough room for like not for people to like not die and whatnot, and yeah, that's basically the dodge for that one. The other way that you can do it, I think the one that's on the simulator is you just stay on the edge of the arena. So like if it's easier for you, just do this if you want. You stay on the edge of the arena, and then like so the APOC ray is gonna, oh god, okay, whatever. The APOC ray is gonna like go out, right? And instead of going back, because you'll just go to the edge of the arena, you can walk to one of the sides. But I think that one might actually be harder, because you have to like pre-position yourself in a way where you leave yourself enough room on both sides to move. So like it's better to move onto the left, because Alex here is going to cast Sacrament, and you can't dodge to the, well, you can dodge to the right, but it's less movement if you dodge to the left, and it's a lot, I think it's a lot easier that way. I guess, yeah, again on the Sacrament, I think some people like may get like scared of Sacrament, but you have a lot of time to move, so you don't have to worry about it. You basically just like, the order of mechanics for you is like, pretend you are baiting brute justice, because if you're not baiting brute justice, it's even easier, right? If you're baiting brute justice, it's brute justice jumps to you, but the moment you see him jump, or the moment you see him like land, that's when you pop like knockback prevention. You can do that on both sides, and it's perfect timing for the cone and the dash. And we actually did some testing onto this. I think brute justice snapshots his jump position, and then where he's gonna like snapshot for his position for the APOC ray and everything. His jump gets snapshotted the moment he jumps and not when he lands. So if he jumps and you move, he's still gonna land at the same spot. I think that's what we found. So you can sort of stand on here, and the moment you see him jump, you can walk backwards. But I have not done that because again, it's just I was more used to doing it the other way, so I'm not gonna change it. So, and then after Brute Justice jumps to you, right? Because 3 is like the more difficult one because you have to bait it first. You basically just face out of the arena, right? You stand here, Brute Justice jumps to you, bam. You go to over here, APOC ray goes out, and basically like make sure you always face out here. Make sure you always face out because Cruise Chase is gonna spawn really soon, and it's gonna hit you with the cone, and basically just stay there and then wait for this to go off. And then about the time when this happens, this puddle will shrink, and then the moment it shrinks, run, because the sacrament's gonna come out, and wherever you're standing on the red dot is not safe. So yeah, that's basically what's going on over here. Let's see. So I just play it. So 3. So I'm not baiting the Brute Justice here, but you know. So you see the paladin over here is standing like just a bit in front of the red dot. Chakram, the jump, and like I'm facing out here, and I just I saw it jump, and I popped my knockback prevention. Look at that, Creature spawns immediately, shoots it. So the puddle goes a little bit smaller. You just run because this sacrament is about to go off, and look at that. So if I was staying on the red dot, I would have died, right? Watch. Like if I was on the edge of the arena, I would have died. So I guess, you know, like here is fine, just on the depends on how you look at the arena. If you look like in the middle like this, so the left of the red dot will be safe, but it's kind of sketch. So just keep running, and plus 7 and 8 will be running down into bait as well, so you shouldn't be there. Okay. And 3 and 4 is the only set, like number set, that doesn't have to soak a puddle, so that's one less thing I guess to think about. So for 5 and 6, let me go back. So for 5 and 6, you'll be going mid, which basically, like, so this is 1 and 2 territory, 3 and 4 is like down here. Mid would be in between like the rivets here. So the way that I think most people do it is you just go roughly like on this one, because so like in between the 2 red dots there's like 3 of these little things. You can just run to the middle one, or you can run on like either side's kind of fine, but as long as you're in this general area, it's okay, because you're basically just looking to dodge the chakrams that's going through, and you don't get hit by them, and you're not in a weird spot where you get hit by the cone or something like that. So I think I have a video of it. I have a video of 6. Okay, that's fine. This was the video from before, right? So yeah, basically just go to the rivet, wait for the chakrams to go off. So 5 and 6 will have to bait the first one, right? But so as you can see here, like the puddle is spawned in this orientation. The other one would be like this, right? Regardless of which one it is, stand in the circle closer to the middle of the arena, like this, because if you stand too far over here, you can get clipped by the dash. You can, like, if it's like what do you call it? Like basically if you stand like outside in like in the middle of the thing or like other spots, you're gonna get clipped by things like APOC ray, by the dashes, and you know, like with all of that stuff going on, you don't want to be in the way of all these mechanics because they're literally like the whole middle area is like not safe basically. So you always stand on like close to the edge of the arena, but also close to the middle of the arena. So about like here would be good to stay, and vice versa on the other side. What did I do? Okay. So I'm standing here. So like the dash goes off, right? APOC ray should be going out. Right, so that was not safe if I was a bit further up. And then for this, the moment you see the puddle go small, you need to sprint up. I don't think I actually sprinted here, but I was even number, so it doesn't really matter. I think I think if you're odd number, it's really important to sprint. Like maybe you can do it without sprint. It's probably fine, but you're gonna have to like be very like careful of what's going on. Or you're gonna like die or something, because like the idea, right, is like 5 on the other side is like doing what I'm doing here, and then they're running up to the red dot where like 1 and 2 was, because 1 and 2 will be coming down, because the tell for them moving down is the puddle going smaller. You guys will be running up and you'll be doing the same thing, and if the puddle spawns here rather than the closer one and you're 5 and you don't have sprint, you're going to be slowly walking all of this distance up here, and before you reach there, Cruise Chaser is going to spawn and hit you. So again, like this is sort of fine as long as you bait it outside of the arena. You don't have to bait it like always like this. As long as you bait it like north or something, you bait it outside of the arena so it doesn't hit people. The problem is if Cruise Chaser like spawns like here, if like Cruise Chaser like spawns here and you sort of stay where you are or you move around, the dash is going to kill you. So you're gonna have to like do some janky movement, you know, like loop around or whatever. But it's always good to just you need to just sprint for 5. I don't think you need it for 6, but yeah. So go up here. Again, run on the edge of the arena, or you're gonna get hit by APOC, or have the chance of running into APOC. So that one goes out. Then I bait the dash. Make sure you stay here properly. Again, stay, because if you go slightly down, you're gonna snapshot and then you're gonna kill somebody. Like the dash is gonna run through some other people. And that's basically it for 5 and 6. Oh yeah, I guess I can say that. Talk about the knockback timing. The knockback timing is basically as you soak the puddle and you're sprinting up to your spot. As you're sprinting up to your spot, that's when you use your knockback prevention. That's it. I think that's it. Yeah. I think I have a clip for 7 and 8. Yeah, I do. Okay. I have one of 7, I think. There we go. Yeah, that's 7. Okay. So you go mid with 5 and 6 at the start as well, but you don't soak the first puddle, and you soak the second one. So, but you still stay like you don't have to worry about staying on the puddle, because after Chakram goes off, as you move down, then after like a little bit, then the puddle goes off. So with this, it's okay to stand in the puddle. It doesn't really matter because it doesn't like go off immediately. Wait for the chakrams to go off. And then if you're like 7 or 8, so you're not baiting this one, basically you just move to the cardinal spot, because no matter how these things spawn like this red dot, this little like spot here is always going to be safe. So you always just stand there, because 1, you don't want to get hit by this. 2, you don't want to soak a puddle. And 3, if you stand too close over there, you're going to get killed by super jump. So, or have like the risk of being killed by super jump, because if you're on the other side where brute justice isn't jumping to, there wouldn't be a super jump, obviously, right? So it's just a lot safer to do this. So after 5 and 6 soaks the puddle here, which you'll see, we'll soak the second one. Again, stay on the edge because you can die from APOC ray if you're too far in, and don't be too close to north or south. Just be, again, as close to the edge of the arena as you can, and as close to the middle as you can, which is basically this spot right here, right? And right as the puddle goes off, I think I'll pop sprint for this one because I've got like a long distance to run, right? And as you're running down there to bait whatever, you pop knockback prevention here, and that's, you know, that's good timing. So this one, 7 and 8. The thing with 7 and 8 is that you have to get back to the middle really quickly, because a random person is going to get a stack marker, and that stack marker does a lot of damage. And because you take all this damage during here, if you're not back there in time, like out of heal range, you're probably going to die if you don't get like a heal fast enough. And so the safety measure that we do is the paladin always uses cover on 8, because 8's the dash, right? So the dash will always go off after the cone, and 7 has the cone. So yeah, see. It's like right here, right? The moment this goes off, you know the next thing is going to be the dash. So the dash is going to be like this, right? Or something like that. Do not run to the middle directly from this spot. Because if you run from this spot directly into the middle, you're going to get clipped by the edge of the dash. You got to do like we call it like a J turn or something, where we just like, where we do this. Or like you do like a really exaggerated movement and you like run back to the middle like that. That's basically what you got to do. I think I've a POV of 8 as well. That's important. So like as you can see, the dash went off. Quickly running in back to do the stack. I'll quickly show. Yeah, I'll show the perspective from 8. I think that's important. So again, yep, to the side. Puddle. Okay, so if this was like the normal strat, right? You'd run down to the red dot and take the dash. But being at the red dot and how late 8 is, because 8's the last person, right? 8 is the very last person that can hit middle or like run back to middle. And if you're over here, it's possible to like miss heals or whatnot if the healers are coming in from that side. So what we do instead is we get them to move a little forward. So right here, you see how I move like a lot further in, because again, like this is just something that goes like, it's in the same like realm of just understanding how like the mechanic works rather than just like a strategy, right? Because this is basically just limit cut. Like as in like the cones and the dashes works the same way as limit cut. So there's like, it's not a proximity thing where you have to be far away to like to get the dash or whatever. You can be right next to them if you want, but you know, like doing it this way gets the dash. So like I'm still baiting the dash away from the middle, so people are still safe, but I'm a little bit closer, so I'm still in range of heals, regardless of if the healers are coming from here or the healers are coming from here. They can easily target me, whereas if I'm over here, the healers over there can't really get me. So if you're 8, always run in a little bit more. You see I bait the dash and I'm already very close to the rest of the party there. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't think there's really much else to say about that. Okay, so with enumerations, this is not a really good POV for me, because I just stood still in the middle there. I think another one might be better. Maybe the clear video. maybe not. But okay, I know. I gotta find one. Because we do like static positions for tanks and healers in the DPS adjust. So okay, right here. So I've got the enumeration, right? So oh god, mega holy, okay, way too far up. So enumerations here. As you can see there, we're doing healers always on the left enumeration facing that way. We just look at the one marker. That's what we do for that. We all look in this direction, and the two healers are always here, and the two tanks are always here. So the two random DPS that gets it, that gets enumerations, will be the third one, and then the two other DPS that don't get it will be out of the enumeration. And the way we do it is, I think what we did at the start is that during the stack, the DPS was sort of like line up within the stack, like D1, D2, D3, D4, and it's very, very easy to tell like who's going to get the enumeration out of these, because if it's me and then this person, then immediately you know which one's left and right. If it's like this person and then this person again, even though it's close, you'll still be able to tell. I don't know if people were still doing that like as we were going into the mechanic. But what I like to do there, as you can see from the stack, what's going on? Okay, so the stack right here, right? You see how I move slightly to the left of the stack? This means that like I'm still in the stack, but I'm a little bit out of the party. This makes it a lot easier to tell if I have an enumeration, but also lets other people know if I have an enumeration, and this makes it really, really easy to tell. So like look, like you can see like if I was standing on there, the two enumerations would be stacked on top of each other. But because it's like this, it's very obvious that there's one left and then there's one on the right. And if you like, because I'm D1 and I'm on the left, I would just be like standing there and I just won't move, right? And it's a very quick adjust. So if you're DPS, I guess you can like just like jump around and whatnot and see if you have the ring around you, and if you don't, immediately just run out. So that's basically the way I like to do enumerations. I think we have the Sacred Sword here as safety, and as a result we don't have it for Mega Holy. But Mega Holy isn't too big of a problem. We get dropped really low, I think. Oh, that's okay. It's not bad. There's the second one. Addo and Reprisal. Okay, yeah, that's a bit lower. That's pretty, yeah, that's yikes. But, yeah, Mega Holies, yeah, again, we seem usually fine for them. I don't think we've ever wiped to it unless we've like really messed up, like we had a death and we didn't have like a reprisal or something. But yeah, that's basically just that. The rest of the mechanic, the rest of the phase really just do damage. We just stuck on the one marker. There's initial damage coming in from the boss's cut coming down. And so this is J-waves, right? And you see like there's like a whole different number of J-waves on like spreadsheets and whatnot. Let me see if I can get a... okay, like this. So this would be a... spreadsheet for whatever, like J-waves. You go down to Alex Prime. So this is our this is our mitigation plan for J-waves. So the J-wave numbers, they don't cast the numbers. The way you look at it is usually one person, usually the healers, because the healers aren't really doing damage here, they're just spamming heals. Right, you can see them, they're literally just spamming heals. And what they do is, the J-Waves, you can track them by targeting Brute Justice. So right here there's nothing, right? But like as we kill it and I target Brute Justice, you'll see like a number. The healers, because they're not really targeting it, like anything for damage, they can just target Brute Justice. And what that will do is they can call out like what number the J-Waves are currently at. So like you'll see once I get here. So we've got like Asylum and everything to like boost healing potency and whatnot, right? So okay, so that right here, that right there, next on the right of Deer, that's the J-Wave number. So people can just call out, okay, we're on 5, we're on 6, we're on 7, and yeah, so the healers at the start can just like keep track of that and call it out or whatever. We just do a lot of stuff for safety here, like the Paladin just stops doing DPS and just uses Passage of Arms. Because this is really healing intensive. Because they're like just spamming heals, right? And look at how much damage it's still taking and everything. It's quite ridiculous with like proper mitigation and everything. This is just, yeah, this is just burn the boss literally. It's like nothing to talk about here. I think we actually held DPS because we did too much and we needed 8th of Flu to come back for our Scholar, and our Red Mage wanted to go into P4 with 4 mana. So we lose a little bit of DPS here, but it doesn't really matter because, you know, it makes phase 4 a little bit safer because we have a little bit more damage and like 8th of Flu stacks going into it. So that's okay. I think for the this right here, because where you have to tank LB3, the timing for tank LB3 is the moment this message, I think when this message hits 3 you can click it. So like, I already clicked it at 3. Yeah. It's probably good to just have both tanks just click it at 3, just in case if one like messes up or something. That makes it a lot easier. So for phase, no, I should mention for this, for the tank LB3, you can actually still die if you use tank LB3. I don't actually know how we died on one of the first times we got to phase 4. I think Sucker dropped off like last second, and our healer died. I'm not sure if they had weakness or not, maybe, but you know, it's just one of those things to make sure you just. I think we just have like mitigation and we have shields and everything there just in case, because it's a bit scary because it happened once. Okay, so for phase 4, phase 4 is pretty easy, but there are still some things to look out for because it's still kind of, it's also like easy to die, but you have a lot of time to do mechanics mostly. So this is basically just a phase that you have to, like, you must study in its entirety beforehand, because from what I've seen you can save a lot of time by studying this phase a lot because of simply just how long it takes to get there. If people like really study it, wormhole prog will soon feel like a dice roll, where if you manage to get past wormhole you have a shot of just straight up clearing the fight. The chance could be small because, you know, some people may struggle with a few things here and there, but the chance is very much there. I still think the hardest mechanic in this phase, and the one that is most tense, is literally the first one, Final Word, because people need to check their debuffs as soon as possible and then start sprinting to where they need to go. The problem is that that you might face is stillness first, because it's either stillness first or motion first. And if it's stillness first, people will need to stop, wait for it to go off, and then continue sprinting to their spot. But this window is actually like kind of tight, I think. Like if you don't greed GCDs and you just sit out, I think it's okay. Because I think you have 3 seconds to move from the moment you see the debuff to when you have to stop moving for stillness. And obviously if it's motion first, then you have a super easy time, but You always have to, like, again, you have to accommodate for, you know, the worst, because it's a 50-50% chance. It's right here. Yeah, we always just pot. Get our stuff. So final word starts casting here. So just make sure you look at your debuff bar. This is super important. The moment this goes off, just stare at your debuff bar. So I've got light beacon. The beacons, I like to just call them like lollipops. Like there's that, and then there's the dark beacon, and then the other people will get light or dark. For this mechanic, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which, if you get light or dark movement. The only things that matter is beacon, and everybody else just stacks. So it's the moment I see that I'm light beacon, I gotta like immediately run to my spot, because light beacon's technically like the hardest one, because if you're hanging around this area, which is closer to the other ones, you gotta sprint all the way up. So like we're doing like dark beacon here, everybody stacks here, and then light beacon needs to run to here. And the fastest way to tell whether you have light beacon or like a beacon, or you're like a person that is moving, is the people that are moving always has an arrow. So like again, like for me, it's literally just like this is one lollipop. The dark one also is, I call it like a lolly, and then the people that are moving are the arrows, as in like they're walking to or they're walking away from the lollipop. That's basically just how I look at it. So this one, so this is motion first, so this is like super easy, right? But I think the way you if this is stillness first, see how like this cast bar is like over halfway. If it's like around, like if it's like literally like over halfway or at halfway, just do not hit anything. Just like click off the boss, hit escape, and just do not hit anything, because it's possible if it's like a bit further up, like if the cast bar, so the cast bar is like here, right? So the cast bar is currently like right here. If it's stillness and the cast bar is like here, and you hear something, you can probably die to stillness from that. It's really, really bad if you die to stillness, but it's, you know, you gotta be super, super safe. But so like if it's stillness first, just stay there, because you have like, just pop sprint, because you see like I can still sprint, like it's fine if you don't get there in time, because if you don't get there, just stay for stillness, and you can just continue running to where you gotta go. Like for example, if I was here, if I ran to here with stillness, if I ran to here with light beacon and then stillness happens, I can quickly, like after stillness goes off, I can just quickly run, and there's enough time. But just after stillness or the motion goes off, which is when you see like the sword come down, do not like try to like go to the boss and hit like a GCD or something like that, because the timing is kind of tight for you being in the right spot. So let me go back to the other one, because this is kind of important. So what we're doing is dark beacon is always on over here, light beacon's always on the west. So these markers are set up in a way where this is perfect for all the movements for all the different like fake calibrations, and like anything to do with beacons and whatnot. So our beacons are always on the edge of this marker, and then the people that are moving are always on the other edge of this marker. As long as you're standing directly on the edge, you will be fine. If you stand a little bit further out, you can die, because if you're like dark, dark will be moving away, right? Dark will be moving away, and you need to be at a certain distance to dark. I think if you like, I think it was like if you're too close, or if you're like, well, I mean, you wouldn't be too close because you're moving away, but if you're too far away, you'll die. So if you're dark, make sure you stand on like here, and the dark beacon's here, because you'll move to a spot where you'll like stop like here, and they'll still be like good enough distance, and you won't die from it. But everybody has to make sure they know exactly where to stand for this, because somebody, like one person messing up, can cause other people to die. And it's the same thing with light beacon on the other side. I guess I'll just go there. Like you'll see me go to the spot right here. It's motion, so like yeah. So right here I'm just moving basically on the edge of the marker. And I'm the beacon, so the light's moving to me, the dark's moving away from the dark, and then we stillness. Like just do not greet stillness, never greet stillness. This shit is cancerous as hell. Literally just untarget the boss, because you really have to make sure that you're not auto attacking the boss, because you may not be clicking GCDs, or you may not be like moving. But if your character still auto attacks the boss, that counts as movement and you will die. So this is the mechanic you have to respect the absolute most. You just spam escape, and then just like hands off the keyboard and mouse, and just wait for the whole thing to go off before you start moving again. Like you're gonna lose a lot of GCDs, and it's perfectly fine. Okay, so with this one, because this is either spread or stack. The spread, you gotta create like spots. I think the way we did for the spread is because of these like circles that are used for like the enrage sequence. We basically have one person in each of these circles to spread. So like I'm here. This is my one, but it's not like we have to have one person in each one. It's just, a tell that we can use, because I'm pretty sure our ranged and caster don't do the thing like that. They just have one person here and then one person here like this. And as long as we're spread, that's fine. It's just, makes it a little bit easier to think about it and adjust. So the stack here is a bit weird, because the stack, we did 4 DPS on south and the 2 tanks and 2 healers on north. It's actually possible to have 2 stacks in one group. So you have to very quickly see, you sort of like line up in a way, sort of like enumerations, where like the DPS, like you don't really have to line up per se, but as long as people are like spread out in a way where you can see who's closer to move to this one. Like so this person's getting stacked here, and then if there's another stack here, this person will obviously be the person that goes north, and then one person north has to come down. But it doesn't really matter if it's a 5-person stack and a 3-person stack, you can still survive. So there's a lot of leeway there, I guess. It doesn't have to be a 4-4 stack. But what you have to note is that if somebody dies in final word, if it's spread, or one person's going to get 2. So if one person dies in final word, one person's going to die in spread, because one person's going to get 2 spread markers. We have a sacred soil here. We just stand on the edge, and then whichever one goes off first, the opposite one will happen after. So you can see the range in the casters just, it doesn't do a lot of damage. Once people heal, and, we get some stuff going on. It's pretty easy. So Fate Projection Alpha, okay. It's known as just like FCA. This one is well, this one's pretty easy. This one's pretty easy because you just look at the clone, and there's not a lot of like other weird elements that you have to think about. It's really just look at your clone and figure out which thing you have, which is basically only just a few things, where you can get like deformation, you can get like aggravated assault, you can get the shared sentence, or you get nothing. Basically just follow your clone. And I guess the only thing that could be difficult with this is if people didn't like properly study the mechanic, like you don't get a debuff marker. So if you don't get like a debuff marker for like aggravated assault or shared sentence, the only way that you can tell which one you have is by looking at your clone and looking at like how they like sort of like die or whatever. Like there's going to be like an explosion that goes out on your clone, and then it's like a big AoE that everybody can see. That one's deformation. If you see like a big like a big loop thing, well, that one's gonna be like a shared sentence, and then the ones where like 3 people gets like a little like cog explosion, that one's like a like aggravated assault. So you gotta like look out for that. So like that big one that just blew up was defamation. This giant cog thing here is shared sentence, and then there's 1, 2 here, and there should be another one somewhere. This is aggravated assault. And the way we do it is, well, I guess we'll go to the thing first. So there's also 4 perfect Alexes at the top. They're gonna shoot sacraments like this, right? And then the second one, the third, and then the fourth. One of these are not gonna fire, and the one that is not gonna fire is either going to be the second one or the third. So you basically only have to look at 1 and 2, and if they both fire, you know the safe spot's 3. And if you're looking at 1 and 2 and you see 2 doesn't fire, then you obviously know it's 2. So you basically, again, that's just like reducing lines of thought. Makes the mechanic much easier. And the swords will be going out at this time. So if you see the light one, this one's motion. If you see the dark one, that one's stillness. And there's 2 of them. So this one, if you stand near south, you can very, very quickly see which one's the safe spot without looking at the thing. So as you can see, this was clearly the spot that wasn't hit. And this white little like tent, the circus tent looking shit, this is the safe spot. As long as you're in here, you're safe. So the way we do it is there's like 2 little like sides to this, right? I'll get rid of it so you can see it better. So there's like the 2 little sides. We just have the people with the aggravated assault, which is 3 people. The 3 people with aggravated assault's always on the right, and then the shared sentence and the people that have nothing, which will be 4 people, will always be on the left. And then the perfect Alex that didn't shoot a laser, the defamation person will have to stand directly in front of it. So it's basically like dropping a big bomb in E3. Where just pretend, you know, there's a big giant bomb for Tsunami 2, and then everybody else is just in a safe spot. So as you can see, we go to the spot. So it's movement first. So everybody's just wiggle or like jump or whatever, just wiggle. So and then motion second. And then defamation went off as well. So that mechanic's not that bad, but it's basically just like to show you what's coming up, which is fake calibration beta. Yeah, it's just tank stuff. Do what they gotta do. Okay, fake projection beta or fake calibration. This is slightly harder than fake calibration alpha, but it's not that bad. Just gotta make sure different people are paying attention to different things. So with this one, it's the same thing, except instead of just like the aggravated assaults and all that, like you still get like a share, you still get like stuff like that, but this is basically like temporal stasis part 3, where there's going to be like restraining order and like the green and red tethers and all that. This is basically just that, except there's also beacons. So this fake calibration is just you'll pause, and then the beacons will be at 2 different spots. Everybody will move, and then you sort of have to like imagine like solving like temporal stasis with like force march. It's basically what it is. So I can see dark beacon, because it's like you can see like everybody's thing, right? The way you can tell if you're a beacon or not is if your character, if your clone, which is this one, like my one is this one, right? If your clone goes to the edge, runs to the edge of the arena and stands there, they stay still while everybody else is still like moving around, you are a beacon. Whether it's light or dark, you will always be a beacon if you are standing over there. God, what am I doing? Okay. So I'm always a beacon. So I see that I'm dark beacon. So again, yeah, so like, you know, different people, you have to look at like different things. So that's, it's like somebody over there just got the shared sentence. And you're seeing people have, so this one is spread because you can see like the little green orbs. If there's a lot of like little green orbs, it's spread. If it's like 2 giant green orbs, then it's stack. So those are, you know, just mechanics that are going off to show you what's going on. So this one I didn't actually look at, because usually somebody always just calls it out, calls this one out. But this is just, like we call it, like a dynamo. One of these, the perfect Alexes here, they're gonna jump. They're gonna like super jump to somebody, and then they're gonna cast like a dynamo. So if this is like the safe spot, if this is the perfect Alex at the safe spot, right? Everybody just goes within the hitbox. But that resolves at the very end. So okay, so I guess I should talk about this one. Do I rotate my camera here? Kinda. Okay, I do. So the trick with this one is, so again, dark beacon, or the beacons for this one's always on the edge of here, right? So this is east, right? So this is, we're looking at east here, and that's north. So we're always here, and you want people to like move, like one person goes there, one person goes there, and then the rest of the party goes up that way, because there's a light beacon up here as well. The person with a light beacon, they can't be like, so this is A, I think. This is A for the point for north. You can't be here. You have to be a little bit further up like this, because if you're standing here, that's a little bit too close, and you can cause people to die by having people walk to you and be too close. So hold on, I think I should have an image. Fake calibration beta. Yeah, it's basically just that. But obviously you have light beacon like standing here instead, like this is north, west, east, and then south. You have light beacon up there, and then this is very exaggerated. This is very exaggerated. It's actually just like these two groups here can be standing in the same spot. They're just doing this to show with more clarity of what's going on. So basically just look at which one of those debuffs you have based off of what your clone has. So you can see like if your clone has like a dark thing above their head, or if they, you know, you see like a giant like restraining order line. It's like, okay, so restraining order, and then I've got this color or whatever. But this strategy, if you're light, regardless, if you're light, you're always walking up. So regardless of what you have, you don't have to look. As long as you have light, you just turn your brain off and just walk up. So the way we do this mechanic, so as I said, the dark beacon goes here. What should actually happen is the person goes south, it should be on this part of the marker. The person that wants to go west will be here. The person that wants to go there will be here. So we basically just use the same marker, and we use like the cardinal positions of the marker to go here. So like this person here, you'll see that they're not exactly here, and you'll see their movement. So when I click play, you'll see that they don't move perfectly to the spot that they need to go to. Like they should be behind C. They want to be behind C, right? So like this doesn't really matter, because you have time to adjust. But I think our monk DC'd, so that's why they didn't move. But we would have lived this mechanic, because the restraining order should be like this, right? And they should be up there, but I think that they DC'd, so they didn't move. Yep, that's just unfortunate, but maybe my clear video has a better. Okay. I don't know what I have here, but So moving north. So you see like the light beacon is not exactly on A, right? They're slightly moved to the side a little bit for us to move. And then right here, we have a lot of time to adjust, right? We can still move and everything and stack. So this is spread. Now if this was stacked first, we always do, so this is A, right? This is north. We always have the people with light stack here, and the people with dark to stack here. One person will come up with us with dark, and that person has to know that they have dark and immediately run south, and while the rest of us stay here, because the stacks are always on one light and one dark. So this is just spread. Spread is like, I don't think we really have like set positions, we just adjust. It's fine. It's really easy to do. And then we all just like run to the dynamo safe spot. There we go. So yeah, this is a better view. So like imagine if this asylum was sacred soil, which we would have if it was stack. We would have the light. The people with light will be here on the edge, and then the people with dark will be here. So there will be a 4-4 split. The rest of it is just like tank stuff. Like legit, after you beat fake calibration beta, I mean, it's basically like, you know, a clear at that point if you have enough DPS. Well, I should mention though, for the fake calibration beta, when you're doing the people moving north and whatever, like make sure you like adjust your position properly. Like if you're this person here that's going that way, which means that this person has like the restraining order, make sure you go to the edge of the arena, because you want to be the furthest person to actually bait super jump, because one super jump will go there, one super jump will go here, and one super jump will go here. So you're looking to be like actually doing it properly, and make sure you're baiting the super jump and somebody else doesn't get it. And from the north part here, we always just go to the top, and the other person goes to the edge. And because I think we actually died once because we just stood like here, and maybe the other person was a little closer or something as well, and they died. So from the restraining order, that needs to be separated. So we just move up here for safety, basically. So you see the super jump goes off. Be very careful here, because if you have spread and the healers don't heal you in time, you have to look at your HP. Because if your HP is a bit low, I always just pop like second wind and whatnot. I actually survived a pull like that because I used second wind. Like I would have actually died because I think I was out of like indom or something, and I used second wind and I managed to live there. This doesn't really need to talk about this, it's just tank stuff, right? Doesn't really matter. Because the tanks it's just, you know, cooldowns and everything. Okay, so for trines, this is absolute sadness if you wipe at trines. But Almighty Judgment is the cast for it. I take care of the first feint for the first trines, and then the other melee feints the second trines. It's just to reduce damage on the tank, and that's tanking basically, because they got to stack with us, and if their health is a bit low, they might die from the stack that happens after, or during it I should say. So we all stack at 1. The markers here are very important. So as you can see, we have 1 marker here, 2 and 3. We have the middle as well, but we don't have a marker there. But it's basically these 4, and we basically call out movement like, the dodge pattern will be 1 to 2, or 3 to 2, or 2 to 1, or 1 to middle, or like 1 to 3 or something like. Or, I mean, it wouldn't be 1 to 3 because it's always like this. There's always 2 things that go out there, but like you get the point. The markers are like perfect spots for the dodge pattern. I've always just listened to the call out for this, but because I'm doing just a bunch of stuff with my rotation, and I don't know, it's just one of those things that one of our members were really good at just calling this out, and they basically just handle it themselves, and they just call out the dodge pattern. Okay, sorry, I had to quickly go do something. Alright, let's go back to it. We're talking about trines, I think. Yeah. So sacred sword. Okay, so the first one goes off at 2. The way you do this is whichever one, the one that goes off first is the one that you'll be moving into at the very end. So for this one, for example, we know that we're going into 2 because it's the one that's covering like the markers that we have set. So it's going to be one of these, right? One of these or something like that. And we'll just be, because 2 went off, that's going to be the one that we're moving to. And then you look at the other set and you see, 1 is currently safe. So the easy dodge pattern here is literally just 1 to 2. And a big stack damage thing happens here, so make sure everybody's on the same page. I think we're passage of arms here as well, so... I think the way we did this consistently is we always have everybody on the left side of the marker, so the paladin can stay here and like actually get the passage of arm off. Let's just tank busters again. Not really much to talk about, and then just second set of trines. Second set of trines basically just do the same thing. The second set of trines. Yep, stack. I think we have shield samba here. I don't actually know the pot window for like tanks and healers because they need to pop first. Like the healers need to pop first because they're taking like the first and second jail. They're obviously going to be the ones that are going to be stopped doing DPS like the quickest, so they're going to pot a little bit earlier. So pot's already up now, and we're holding 3 minutes. Well, I mean, I didn't hold 3 minutes, but I should have held 3 minutes. I think I actually mentioned in this video that I accidentally used it. So that's that. I think the healers can like pot somewhere here, or like during trines or something, and then when the boss jumps, like that, and it casts in rage sequence temporal interference, that's when everybody else pots and bursts. This is literally just burn the boss and just kill it. Everybody just pre-positions. There's only 7 jails, so there's always going to be 1 DPS that gets to hit the boss at the end. If you go that far at least, which you probably won't. Just LB3 here. Make sure you have 1 person in each jail. If you have 2 people in 1 jail, you won't wipe, but you just have 2 people stuck in the same place. And I mean, if you're cutting out close to DPS, that might cause a wipe. But you gotta make sure you have at least 1 person in each one. I need some really janky shit with my rotation here. I just like clicking random buttons because I'm just like, it's a victory lap, right? I think I untargeted the boss by accident and I didn't even realize. Yeah, and that's it. That's basically it. I don't think there's anything else to really talk about. Last phase is really easy. I guess I can quickly go back to talking about like the bursts that I was talking about, and how I managed to like burst in the fight. So this is coming from a Dragoon, so there are some things that other jobs can't do exactly, but it will be like similar enough to the point that it will still stand. Like the pawn will still stand, and other jobs can just like extrapolate from it. So the idea is that I can like modulate my burst windows on Dragoon based off of where we're currently at in prog, and then take burst from a phase that we just got down and then move it forward to help the check in the next. The first example of this was in Living Liquid, where like Dragoon can delay first life as per normal and then enter again right after. When you get past Living Liquid, you can move that second burst to the start of BJCC instead. So instead of doing like a fresh opener at BJCC with no life up, you can go straight into burst with the Dragon Sight and Litany. Which like what this does basically is move damage that is no longer necessary to a place that can do with a bit of help. Because I mean, the reason why you would even see Enrage in phases during ultimate is basically just simply because it's the first time you got there, and maybe people drop too much damage trying to see mechanics and you fail the check, or like people die or something like that. Like that's usually like the cause of like seeing Enrage, but you know, that's natural. But now that you've seen the phase to its end state, you can add damage back in. But my approach here is that while we are learning a phase, you can move damage from a place where you already got down to aid with this current check to reduce the need of even seeing Enrage, because the extra burst will help make up the damage loss that people are doing on purpose to learn. That is where like modulating damage and burst comes in handy. The next point of the fight where I did that was in BJCC to phase 3, where we hold our 90 seconds and 2 minutes at the end of BJCC to use for after temporal stasis with pots. The group decision for that was simply just because we were killing BJCC too fast, and we should slow down to get resources back up for phase 3. But even after we stopped killing as fast, my Litany only got like 14 seconds of usage or something out of like the 20 seconds of full Litany for post-temporal burst, because it came up like halfway through temporal stasis, the burst after temporal stasis. So at that point I was fine with just using Litany like that, even though there was it was kind of a waste, because that was the only way that I could fit 2 Litany usages in phase 3. Like it would be one here, and then the second one for J-Waves. This was for during prog, right, for phase 3, but the moment we start getting to phase 4 consistently, we started needing to hold DPS for phase 3 so Skull can get like Aether Flow back and Red Mage Monster gauge up, and I basically just moved Litany to different timings. So instead of first Litany at temporal, I'll just hold it for a full usage for post inception. So this would mean that I don't get a second usage, right? I won't get a second one for J-Waves, but that means that I can have a Litany aligned with pots and everybody else's raid boss at the start of phase 4. Whereas if I kept it the way it was and have 2 Litanies in phase 3 to get more damage in, my Litany will come up a little bit into phase 4, which will be slightly misaligned. So a slight change like that would help us meet checks more comfortably and improve prog speeds. So like comfort is a good thing, right? Because people don't want to like overstress high damage and cause them to die to something like stillness that late into the fight. So I think in general, this isn't like the best for passing, but it will help a lot for progging new phases. So I think that's basically it. I don't think there's anything else to talk about. That's basically the whole fight. So yes, thank you for watching. That's it. Goodbye.